15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a massive Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot cooking today. Evan Washburn, NFL on CBS, sideline reporter, is going to join us 20 minutes from now. He will be on the sideline in Baltimore for Dolphins and Ravens on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Coming up at the top of the hour, former Alabama safety Roman Harper is going to stop by, now a part of the SEC network, as we have to preview both college football playoff games, Texas and Washington, and then the Rose Bowl between Alabama and Michigan in the final hour of the show. We will have our BetMGM tonight. Betting insider Ryan Horvat stopping by. We'll do college. We'll do NFL with Ryan Horvat, as we do on each and every Football Friday right here, but where else? On the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Got Manny Rodriguez and Moist Mike rocking and rolling with me. We'll take you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And let me just start the show by saying this. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. How about the Cleveland Browns? How about the Cleveland Browns? And I said, here we go again. It's the Cleveland Browns, and it's 1st and 10. I know I don't have a great singing voice, but this Cleveland Browns team is just so freaking awesome to watch. And they are a joy to see each and every week. No matter what injuries that they suffer, they just continue to win. The Cleveland Browns have 11 wins on the season. Kevin Stefanski should be the coach of the year in the NFL. And also, I guarantee you this, the Cleveland Browns, who have already defeated the Baltimore Ravens, who have already defeated the San Francisco 49ers, and they defeated the San Francisco 49ers with P.J. Walker, I will guarantee, I don't care who the opponent is, the Cleveland Browns will win a playoff game this year. And the Cleveland Browns are going to be a team that no one is going to want to face come playoff time. Because this has been a squad that has been decimated with injuries. They lost their quarterback in Deshaun Watson. They lost their great running back in Nick Chubb. They lost 2 offensive tackles this year. They have injuries on both sides of the ball. Amari Cooper has a career game, a legendary game, most receiving yards, an individual game for a Browns receiver. He's not even playing last night, and it doesn't matter. Joe Flacco has been the best story of the NFL this year. Who would have thought Joe Flacco would have come off the couch and would have kept on punching you in the mouth week after week after week? It's just sensational. Joe Flacco, he fell asleep in the second half because the game was over after the ass whooping that he delivered to the Jets through the first 30 minutes of football. David Njoku, this guy nearly burned his face off. He's having a career year. And this Cleveland Browns team just keeps on dominating. It is surreal. They have 11 wins. They probably will have 12 after the regular season, and they have lost practically everyone. But this team just keeps on finding a way. This team just keeps on moving along and going through opponents and it doesn't matter. And they have a great defense. They have an offense that is galvanized by Joe Flacco. You have a great wide receiver who's so underrated in Amari Cooper. And Njoku, as I said, having a career year. They could still run the football. This is a football team. They're a well-rounded football team. And going into this season, there were all these questions about Kevin Stefanski. You know, Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat, even though he won a Coach of the Year award in 2020. Is Kevin Stefanski the guy for the Cleveland Browns? And a lot of people, including yours truly, thought Kevin Stefanski would be a scapegoat for Deshaun Watson, as Deshaun Watson still had a lot of rust to knock off. And I did not think that Deshaun Watson was ever going to justify the trade and the contract that the Browns had to go through to get him this season. And ultimately, at the end of the year, I thought the power play would be won by Deshaun Watson, and Kevin Stefanski would be out of a job and would probably land a head coaching job somewhere else. But this year, even after losing Deshaun Watson, I don't want to hear next year. Even if the Browns regress, even if Deshaun Watson doesn't play well, I don't want to hear people blame this head coach. Because this head coach, in all likelihood, by the end of this year, is going to have 2 Coach of the Year awards. And these are the Cleveland Browns, all righty? You don't win the Coach of the Year award 2 times in Cleveland and then get fired the next year. All the excuses for Deshaun Watson are out the window. And I know Watson isn't playing this year. But for next year, and I'll say this right now, 5 minutes into this show today, and in the final days of 2023, there is no player under more individual pressure entering next NFL season than Deshaun Watson. And remember this year. Remember what Cleveland is doing this year. So when Watson doesn't play great or has stretches of bad football next year, I don't want people to be prisoners of the moment and go, you got to get rid of Kevin Stefanski. Because this year, with basically no one, old man Joe coming off the street, that's what old man Joe Flacco coming off the street. Look what they've been able to do. They're down to their 4th quarterback. The Browns have clinched a playoff berth, for crying out loud. And they still have some crazy road, which is actually not that crazy, where they could get the number 1 overall seed. Now, in all likelihood, I do believe that this Cleveland Browns team is going to be on the road come Wild Card weekend. And they're probably going to be going up against the 3 seed. No, they'll be going up against the 4 seed. Because they already have 11 wins. They'll get 12 wins probably at the end of next weekend. They'll be the 4 seed. The 5 seed. So they'll be going up against the 4 seed. And that 4 seed is either going to be Kansas City or it's going to be the AFC South champion, whether that's Jacksonville, Houston, or Indianapolis. There's no doubt about it in my mind right now. I don't care if it's Kansas City. I don't care if it's Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. It does not matter. The Cleveland Browns will go on the road, Wild Card weekend, and they will beat either of those 4 teams. I guarantee it. And I know some people are going to say, Kansas City, they're not going to beat Kansas City. I would guarantee you it is an absolute lock that the Cleveland Browns would go into Arrowhead and they would defeat the Kansas City Chiefs. You just got to get to 20 points to beat Kansas City. Kansas City's defense is not as great as we thought it was earlier in the season. They're going in the wrong direction. And offensively, Travis Kelce isn't having a good year. Mahomes, we all know, is still a magician, and he's great, and he'll keep you in any game. But he has wide receivers that can't catch the football. And when you add it all up with Cleveland, they have a very good defense, a great defense. They have an offense, even with all the pieces that they've lost, they are putting up mega numbers the last few weeks with Joe Flacco. There is no doubt about it. I have never been more sure about something in my life. The Cleveland Browns are going to be going to the second round of the playoffs. And it's wonderful. It's magnificent. Like, I'm not even a Browns fan. I don't even have a dog in the fight. My team stinks. My team has went from being the greatest team ever for 20 years to now a bunch of losers. So now come playoff time, just depending on who I bet on, that's who I'm going to be rooting for. But I don't bet enough money where I let it change the way that I operate my life. So, like, I could bet on a team, and if they don't win, so be it. If I get a good game, I'm okay with that, even though I would prefer to win my bet, obviously. But when we go into this postseason, not having a team on the AFC or the NFC, I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl. Like, let's not get this twisted. But I will actively be rooting for the Cleveland Browns. Because Stefanski is likable. Joe Flacco is the most likable player right now in the NFL. Amari Cooper is so underrated. The story of David Njoku this year is crazy. Myles Garrett is just an absolute stud. This team is a team that everyone can get behind. And also, look at the fan base. Did you see those fans last night? Because back in 2020, when we were going through COVID and all that stuff, and they went to the playoffs. I know they went on the road in Pittsburgh when they clinched a spot in the postseason. Their legendary play-by-play announcer said, the only thing that is missing are you guys. Because they had 10,000 or 11, 12,000 fans in the stadium. And last night, Cleveland was rocking before the game. I saw videos of fans walking into the stadium. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. And then doing the Ken Carman chant of Super Bowl, Super Browns. Yeah. And they did all those chants. And it was so cool to see 60,000, 70,000 fans all flock into one destination. And they're all rooting for the Browns. They're all rooting for Cleveland. And that's a fan base that lost their team, then got a team back. And they have been synonymous with losing. They've been losers. Heck, Dude Wipes. This is one of the greatest promotions I've ever seen. Dude Wipes did a promotion last night that you could exchange your old Cleveland Browns quarterback jerseys from all the crappy quarterbacks that they had, and they gave you a brand new white, clean Cleveland Browns jersey last night. And look how many old jerseys there were. Because those fans, they always support that team. It doesn't matter who the coach is, who the quarterback is, whatever terrible coach they hire, whatever terrible quarterback they draft, it doesn't matter. They're there each and every week. You want to play on Monday, you want to play on Sunday, you want to play on Thursday. They are there for a home game. And fan bases like that deserve to get rewarded. And it's pretty cool when you shape up this postseason field. Like the Bills are going to make the playoffs. That fan base has been tortured for years. Maybe they could find a way to go on a run this year after being close the last few seasons. The Detroit Lions, who just clinched their first division championship since 1993, they're going to have a home playoff game on Wild Card Weekend. And the Cleveland Browns, I don't know if they're going to be home, but those fans will be able to have a playoff game to watch. And it ain't just going to be one playoff game. They're going to have playoff games to watch because the Cleveland Browns are going to be a tough out. The Cleveland Browns, that's what they are. They are a tough football team. They are phenomenal. And they keep on just finding a way to fight through adversity, and it doesn't matter who they lose. They've lost they had to play 3 other quarterbacks before Joe Flacco. And who would have thought Joe Flacco would have been doing what Joe Flacco has done this year? It's a wonderful story. As a sports fan, this is why you watch. Because this team could have quit. This team could have packed it up. This team could have said, we'll have better luck next year. We lost our quarterback. We lost our stud running back. We lost 2 tackles. We lost so many players on this team. But no, they had an opportunity, and they just keep on kicking ass and taking names. And that's a team that's such a well-rounded team, and they're playing with nothing to lose. That's what's going to make them so dangerous come playoff time. Because Cleveland's not going to get blown out in a playoff game. They lose, they're going to lose by a touchdown or less. And that's going to be a dogfight for 60 minutes. And it's spectacular. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back in 5 minutes. Evan Washburn is going to join us. We'll go around the Week 17 slate with him. He's going to be very busy on Sunday as he has the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins, a big-time game for some reason getting played at 1 p.m. Eastern. You could question the scheduling department there and why that game wasn't flexed, but it's good news for Evan Washburn. Him, Iron Eagle, Charles Davis will be on the call. So we'll talk about the Browns with him. We'll talk Ravens, Dolphins, and oh so much more with Evan when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Give us a call right now, 855-212-4CBS.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Evan Washburn probably wishes he was going to Miami this weekend, but he will be in Baltimore. Dolphins at Ravens, and this is going to be a spectacular game. A lot of playoff implications in terms of seeding on the line in this one, and Evan Washburn will be on the sideline. You'll have Ian Eagle and Charles Davis in the booth for Dolphins at the Ravens, and Evan is kind enough to join us right now. Evan, appreciate it. How are you?
I'm good. And I can one-up you, Zach. I'm actually in Miami right now.
Oh, are you?
Did a sit-down with Bradley Chubb, so I'm being able to check both boxes of some South Florida sunshine and then some good old Baltimore Charm City life.
Well, you always live the good life. The only thing I get concerned about with Evan Washburn this time of the year, you have some of the best hair that I've ever seen. So when you go to Baltimore and you have one of these windy games, how do you make sure that the hair just stays so perfectly in place for all your reports?
You know, this is where experience and preparation really comes into play. This is why we put in those hours in August, September, October, November, because in December and January, this is where it counts. And it's about, again, process and protection and making sure you're ready to step up when the moment calls. So I'll be ready.
Is there like a firm wax that you use, or you kind of go for some of that medium wax stuff?
You know, I don't, much like coaches, like to divulge the game plan. I'll let the play on the field tell the story.
People are just wondering if there's any performance enhancers that are used here. You know, people then start to question the Hall of Fame resume for one Evan Washburn.
Completely natural on all fronts.
All righty, get into this game. I'll start you off with the Dolphins since you're around them today. They needed to win a big game. They did so last week. Just what has kind of been the vibe around this team? As I never thought when they were losing to some of these big games, it got to them. But naturally, as a human, you hear that noise that is being said about you.
Yeah, I think they've done a proper kind of ratio of embracing the doubt, embracing the question, using it as motivation, which I feel like this year more than ever, athletes are really dialing into the underdog, the doubters, all the noise. And it's really become, I think, a powerful tool for them. As much as in the moment it's criticizing those that are criticizing them, the outcome has often been a positive thing. And I think that's what you've seen from the Dolphins in what they did against the Dallas Cowboys. And not just because I spent a lot of time with Bradley Chubb today, I think the defense for Miami's really been the story the last month. They've been as big a reason, if not the reason, why they went 3-0 in December, 3-1, and why they find themselves in a chance to kind of keep chasing that one seed.
Why is that defense improved? Because I thought it was a big loss when they suffered the injury on Black Friday with Jalen Phillips. I thought he could kind of be what Hassan Reddick was to the Eagles last year. What have you seen in this last month from this defense to get them playing a lot better as a unit?
Multiple things. I would agree Jalen Phillips' loss was huge, but Andrew Van Ginkel has come in and been a revelation. And he's really honored him with his play, and he's proven to be not just a good story and a grinder with great hair, a fifth-rounder a few years ago. He's a legit pass rusher and game changer. Jalen Ramsey came back as well. Having him in the back end is huge for all the obvious reasons. He's a future Hall of Fame cornerback. They lose Javon Holland, but Deshaun Elliott and some guys have really stepped up. They also lost Jerome Baker, their middle linebacker. Duke Riley slid in there. So it's an example of depth that they have. Vic Fangio doing what he does best and dialing up defense. And that front, to me, is really where it starts with Bradley Chubb, with Andrew Van Ginkel, and Christian Wilkins having an incredible year in a contract season.
Talking to Evan Washburn right now, do you think the MVP is won this weekend? Because a lot of people have been making the case for Tyreek Hill, and a lot of people have obviously made the case for Lamar Jackson, who right now is the front runner to win the award, I would say.
Why not Tua?
That's fair as well. I would personally go Tyreek, though, over Tua. Would you not?
Well, then are we going Christian McCaffrey over Brock Purdy?
I would. I don't know how. I don't know what other people would. But yeah,
it's the Heisman of the NFL. I mean, that's what it is. It's
quarterbacks are at the 50-yard line, and then
everyone
else is 50 yards behind them.
We can call it what it is, but it's really that's what it comes down to. So, look, I think quarterbacks do have the highest value, even though they might not be the best player on the field. I think, to answer your question, I think Lamar has put himself in a position where he can win this award with them winning out or not winning out. He just can't have a Brock Purdy event on Sunday afternoon. But I also think Tua is right in the mix.
Yeah, interesting. Evan Washburn here with us. It annoys me, though, and I don't know if you feel this way as well when it comes to Lamar. This guy has been doubted for so many years, and I thought the coverage around him in the draft process, Bill Polian saying changing the position was absolutely laughable. And all this guy has done has had success. I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl. I know he's only won one playoff game. But it's crazy to me how that's like the end-all, be-all when a lot of players that are all-time greats didn't win until later on in their career. I can't really find any flaws right now with Lamar Jackson, but it still feels like there are a contingent of people that don't want to give him his credit and give him his due.
Well, I think part of it is the apparatus has changed in how we do this, and we're part of it. And what we're doing right now didn't exist to the degree that it does now when I'm trying to think of a quarterback who took a while to win one or to have success in the postseason. I mean, even Peyton Manning, it wasn't built in that way. There were columnists, there was a real strength in newspapers, and yes, there was TV. This is in the dark ages, but I think to this level, the conversation just has so much more power and at times vitriol and negativity. But when it comes to Lamar, his greatest asset right now, in my opinion, is just how he's elevated this team and allowed them to maintain and, as he likes to say, stay locked in through a real challenging year. I mean, they've been dealt their injury blows just like every team. Their schedule has been hellacious when you look at not just trips to London, but you go through it, and we did some of the games there, and the fact that in the games they lost, they shouldn't have lost. I mean, they lost them themselves. I wouldn't say they were really beat. So I think that falls on Lamar, and I trust his teammates when they say he's different this year. The numbers are the numbers. They're even not as good as some of his previous seasons, but he's been an absolute alpha leader, and I think he's the reason why they are where they are right now.
I don't know if one team has the advantage over the other in what I'm about to ask you, Evan Washburn, who will be on the sideline for Dolphins at the Ravens. So the Ravens had that huge victory last week on Monday night up against the 49ers. The Dolphins had a huge victory up against the Cowboys. If one were to have more of a letdown and maybe be a little bit hungover in that first half from the euphoria of last week, do you think that's a challenge for either one of these teams this weekend?
I mean, if there was one team to have it, it would be Baltimore, and it's less mental but just more physical. I mean, they played a Monday night game across the country against a rugged opponent. And, yeah, they blew them out by all intents and purposes, but that game left an impact physically on that team. Kyle Hamilton, for example, he has his injury. They've had guys banged up this week. Zay Flowers kind of working through a calf. So those are just specific, but across the board, you talk to the guys in Baltimore, and they're sore. They're a day behind in recovery, and that will matter when you have to reprime the engine, if you will, Sunday at 1 Eastern against a Ferrari in the Miami Dolphins.
What's your take on Joe Flacco and what he's been able to do with the Cleveland Browns, Evan Washburn?
My favorite story in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years of doing this. And look, I'm biased. I went to schools at Delaware with Joe, and then got a chance to cover him all those years in Baltimore when I was coming up in Baltimore. He's a great guy. I'm so happy for him. The best part about it, Zach, is all the things that people have fallen in love with this year. It's the same guy he was for 11 years in Baltimore, and everybody was questioning whether he was elite and all those things. It's a great example of packaging and story building. And when he's a first-round pick and a Super Bowl MVP, expectations completely go through the roof. And when you're coming off your mom's couch and you jump in whatever it was, week 10 or 11, and then you start playing well, it's completely different. So I'm just happy for him because he's also embracing it and enjoying it, which is what you want any of these guys to do.
And it's great to see Elite Joe Flacco back, and I'll take it a step further. In all likelihood, they'll probably be the 5 seed. I think it's a lock that they're going to be playing in the second round of the playoffs. Like whoever wins the AFC South, even if it ends up being Kansas City falling down to the 4 seed, I think the Browns are winning on Wild Card Weekend.
Which means a potential divisional round game in Baltimore.
Yep.
And those NFL scriptwriters deserve, I don't know if they're getting Emmys or Golden Globes. I don't think they get Oscars, but that'd be a great episode for the 2023 season. The Flacco return to Baltimore as the shining king of Cleveland.
And we also could get potentially, not looking too far ahead, how about the Rams with Stafford maybe having to go into Detroit? Imagine we get both of those on divisional round weekend.
I don't know if we're that. Are we that worthy, Zach? I'm not sure.
Wrap it up with Evan Washburn. Kansas City, where's your level of concern? I compared them earlier in the week to Brady's final season in New England, where the record may say one thing, but when you actually watch that team play, it just feels like they're missing it and they don't have a lot of weapons.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think that's a decent comp. It has Brady vibes. I don't know if I'd go as negative or as drastic as that final season. There was a season there before the knee injury. Maybe it was 2006. I can't remember exactly. I don't have my Patriots season by season in front of me. But there was a season where it was before they brought in Randy and all those guys.
Yeah, it was with Doug Gabriel and Riche Caldwell. They got to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, so that to me is a more apt comp, more so because I just think that where Mahomes is in his career, there's not the external drama that existed with the New England team that was Brady's last year. It might end up, in terms of result, being more in line with what you're saying. Maybe they lose in a wild card or the divisional. But to me, it's a transition year in Kansas City. It feels that way. It feels like the shift from the first era of Mahomes and Reed, much like with Bill and Tom, to now those transitional, hopefully for them, it's only this season or a season or two before they're able to influx it with new talent offensively. But it's still hard as we sit here, Zach, in Week 17, as bad as it's looked, to completely bail on Kansas City. It's a scary proposition when you think about who Mahomes is, and I know Travis Kelce hasn't looked like it recently, but I'm slower to bail these days than I probably was as a younger man.
2 more for Evan Washburn. I remember sitting next to you last year during the playoffs for one of the Eagles' victories. That team had great team chemistry. It seems totally different this year. Is this just because they got into a bad losing streak before getting away from that after taking care of the Giants last week, or do you think there's some legitimate team chemistry problems with the Eagles this year?
It's funny. I was talking to a player last week, and we were talking about chemistry in the locker room and the bond. And this is a guy who's been in the league for 10 years. He's a Pro Bowler. And he was like, look, chemistry is good when you're winning. And, yes, that's not to say there aren't strong bonds that obviously need to exist and at times thrive during hardship. So I don't know if, and I'm not living that beat every day in Philly, and it's a different beast, as we know, on so many fronts. Similar to Kansas City, I still think there's a team in there that can get right and go on a run. It almost feels like sometimes these Super Bowl teams and teams that do find themselves in that final game or final couple weeks have that bump in the road, and maybe it's a 3-game stretch, maybe it's a 4-game stretch. That's why I thought San Francisco's loss on Monday night to Baltimore, while disappointing for them, maybe the best thing that happens to them. I still have so much invested in terms of what I believe that team can be. So similarly, probably not to the level of San Francisco, that's how I feel about Philly.
And then finally, Evan Washburn, Lions and Cowboys coming up tomorrow evening at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. This Cowboys team, we know the Lions have already won the division championship. When you look at Dallas, earlier in the year, some people thought maybe they were going to be a little bit different. They found a way to get a big victory up against the Eagles. And then last week, even when Dak gets the ball in the end zone, then their defense crumbles at the end up against Miami. What do you make of the Cowboys as they enter their final 2 weeks of the regular season?
Look, until it starts Saturday to some degree, but that won't put it to bed. It's about kind of creating that edge and hardening, much like what Baltimore's done and how they've navigated their schedule. You have to kind of win those hard games and those grimy games. And against Miami, they fell short, and they now are gifted in a lot of ways an opportunity to reset that, whether you call it narrative or just belief from the outside of what this team really is. Because they're good, it's really good, but you've got to be able to go into challenging environments, and now that's pretty much a given for them in the postseason, and be able to come out with a win. So it's a tough game for them, but I think it's a really important game to show themselves, and then for whatever it's worth, show everybody else that, yeah, no, we failed to do it a number of times during the season, but we're figuring out how to do it at the most important time now in Week 17.
And then one final one for you, actually, Evan Washburn, and then we'll let you run. Russell Wilson getting benched this week and basically lining up for an eventual release this offseason. How'd you process that one?
I can't say it's shocking. It's felt like it was heading in that direction really before the season even started. I know the contract was the albatross that had to be figured out and probably still will have to be figured out. We had Denver at one point, and things were positive.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was ahead of the loss to Houston, and I think that it's a reminder that, and I know Russell had put words to this at one point, no matter how high you get, that inevitably there's going to be a fall, and Russ has been going through that the last 2 years. Thankfully, his bank account doesn't suffer the same ups and downs. And to me, what's more interesting at this point is what does he do? Because much like guys like Cam Newton Tim Tebow's a tough comp, player status by any means, but I just don't see Russ up anywhere. So it makes your options limited. So it'll be fascinating to see how that all plays out once this season ends.
Yeah, I thought maybe Pittsburgh or Atlanta. Those are the first two teams that came to mind for me for Russ's next stop.
Compete with Joe Flacco, in my opinion, for that next great bridge quarterback opportunity, because my man's played himself into a spot.
How about that? Evan Washburn, enjoy the game this weekend. You guys have a great one. Thanks so much for doing this.
You got it, buddy.
All right, stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Here is Dexter Henry.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, thank you, Zach. In the world of college football, Archie Manning is officially moving up the depth chart. The Texas freshman quarterback has taken all the reps as the backup quarterback during practice for the college football playoff semifinal at the Sugar Bowl. For the first time this season, Manning heads into a game as QB2 behind starter Quinn Ewers. The freshman QB was elevated to the number 2 job for the game against Washington after Malik Murphy announced that he was entering the transfer portal. At the Gator Bowl, number 22 Clemson and Kentucky, high-scoring affair there, and Clemson comes out on top 38-35. At the Sun Bowl, that one is at the half, and right now number 16 Notre Dame with a 14-0 lead over number 19 Oregon State. The Liberty Bowl just kicked off between Memphis and Iowa State. No score in that one right now. And later, 9th-ranked Missouri will take on number 7 Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. In the association tonight, Suns guard Bradley Beal. He's going to make his return to the court against the Hornets. Phoenix made the announcement earlier today. Beal has been out just over 2 weeks after suffering a right ankle sprain against the Knicks earlier this month. I'm Dexter Henry.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
It's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us the question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. You can thank O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty, Moist Mike, what do we got cooking today on Onside Offside?
Well, I mean, 3 straight weekends. We get a Saturday game, and this is another huge one with the Lions against the Cowboys in Dallas. The possible number 1 seed in the NFC at stake. I mean, it could be a long shot, but both teams are still in the mix. The Cowboys are 6-point favorites despite coming off that loss against the Dolphins. Onside, offside, the Cowboys need this win more than the Lions.
Yeah, this is onside. I know that the Lions still have an argument to be made to getting the number 1 overall seed, but Dallas, where they got praise after the Philadelphia game, and then they got obliterated by the Buffalo Bills, and then they thought they were going to get a victory up against Miami. Dak makes the big clutch touchdown pass, and then their defense crumbled. Now we're back on this momentum kind of with the Cowboys and the wave with the Cowboys that the drama Dallas choking Cowboys are back. So they need this win more than the Detroit Lions. And quite frankly, this spread makes absolutely 0 sense. 5.5 points, the Cowboys are a favorite over the Detroit Lions. Sometimes to win money, you got to be uncomfortable. And I think Vegas is begging you to plus the 5.5 points here with Detroit. I actually like Dallas in the game, and I think this game, to answer your question, means more to the Cowboys than it does the Lions. So on sides.
Now, while the Lions and Cowboys battle in the NFC, the Dolphins and Ravens meet up in Baltimore for the AFC's top seed. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites, though Miami's only loss in their last 6 games came by just 1 point. Onside, offside, this Dolphins-Ravens match will be an AFC Championship game preview.
I'm going to take the field here. Now, I think one of those teams will definitely get there, and I would lean more Baltimore over Miami. Miami could be getting hot at the right time. You maybe don't need to be a great team to get to the Super Bowl this year. We'll see what the health will be of Jalen Waddle when he comes back for the postseason, but they still have enough there with Tua and Tyreek and Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane as well. But I trust Baltimore more than I do Miami. And I've been telling you for the last 4 weeks, I like Buffalo to go on a run. And I had a future 4 weeks ago with the Buffalo Bills at plus 1,000. So I'm not going to move the other way on that. They're actually offering me a cash out where I could win $20 off my initial investment. Now, I am not cashing out right now. I am rocking and rolling with the Buffalo Bills. So I think it will be Buffalo going up against Baltimore is what I would say right now. So you say to me, Dolphins and Ravens will be a preview of an AFC Championship game in a few weeks. I will go offside.
Offside.
Now, the Saints travel to Tampa for a huge NFC South matchup, and the Bucs will actually clinch the division with the win. Now, Baker was left for dead after bad seasons with the Panthers and the Rams, but he's been rejuvenated with 26 touchdowns to just 8 picks. Now, I know you've been very down on Derek Carr.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
But he's on pace for his 5th straight season with 20 more touchdown passes, and his entire career, he's only had 1 season under 20 touchdowns.
Okay. 20 touchdowns ain't that tough these days in the NFL.
It's consistent, and he's been good over a consistently long period of time.
Empty stats.
Okay. Well, onside, offside, you have more faith in Baker long-term than Derek Carr.
Yeah, Derek Carr is on the downside of his career. Derek Carr is starting to get exposed. People are starting to realize that even though the Raiders were a train wreck when Derek Carr was there, and Derek Carr was a great leader for the Raiders, he's just not that good. Now, with all that being said, I was actually thinking about this game today. I kind of think the Saints are going to win. I do. I don't want to see the Saints win because I don't like their quarterback in Derek Carr. And I think now people are starting to get on that Bucs train. And whenever this year in the NFL you start to fall in love with the team, they go down the next week. So I think the sexy pick and the popular pick is going to be Tampa Bay. Part of me does think that the Saints are going to win, and I will pick the Saints to win this game. Now, with all that being said, you have more faith in Baker long-term than Carr? Absolutely. I have more faith in Baker Mayfield. I think he's younger. He hasn't taken that many hits, hasn't suffered as many injuries as Derek Carr has. And also, he's going to be back in Tampa Bay next year. And I hope that they find a way to get the job done with Mike Evans. You have Chris Godwin there. You got a good defense. And with the Saints, they're just never healthy. And when you're asking Derek Carr to be a great player, he's not going to be that. So I will take the longer gamble. And I think the odds would be better in Derek Carr's favor, but I'll take the longer shot here with Baker over Derek Carr. I'll go on sides on that.
Now the Packers and Vikings face off in Minnesota on Sunday night, with both teams sharing a 7-8 record and both sitting just one game back of the final playoff
What an ugly
spot.
matchup, too.
I know, it's very interesting. Well, it's not that ugly.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
Jaron Hall started a game up against Jordan Love. You have two 7-8 football teams.
You're taking my next line away. The Vikings send Nick Mullins to the bench and will turn to BYU rookie quarterback Jaron Hall in this crucial game. So onside, offside, neither the Packers nor the Vikings will make the playoffs.
Ooh, that is a good question.
I know.
Because barring a tie, one of these teams are going to win this game. So it sets themselves up for probably one of them to get in. I know right now the Packers would be the 10 and the Vikings would be the 8, so they'd be on the outside looking in. I'd rather see Seattle get in. I'd rather see the Rams get in as well. And you know the loser of the NFC East is going to get in. You know what? I'm going to say both of these teams end up making the playoffs. And I don't know if it logically makes a whole lot of sense, but I don't really need to see either of these teams in the playoffs. So I'll go on sides here.
All right, another big game, because there's a lot of them this weekend.
Yeah, we do.
Every single game this weekend has at least one team that is still in the playoff picture. It's the first time in, I think, ever, but I have to double-check the stat, that's happened this late in the season. The Steelers and the Seahawks both are 8-7, although the Steelers are 9th in the AFC, while the Seahawks are 7th and actually in the playoffs. So onside, offside, the Steelers are a better team than Seattle.
No, I would go offside there. I think the Steelers have a better defense, but that's only one side of the ball. Offensively, I trust Seattle more than I do Pittsburgh, and I trust Pete Carroll a little bit more than I do than Mike Tomlin. I think the Seahawks are a better team than Seattle. Than the Steelers. And then you look at Pittsburgh. I just can't trust it. Like, now we're all going to get excited after one good game with Mason Rudolph, and George Pickens decided to actually play one week, where the last week he refused to block. I'll go Seattle over Pittsburgh. So the Steelers are better than Seattle. I'll go offside.
Offside. Now, everyone believes Caleb Williams will be the first quarterback off the board, followed by UNC's Drake May. However, ESPN draft guru Mel Kiper just threw a third name into the mix for the number 1 overall pick.
Jaden Daniels is red hot. And for people to think that Caleb Williams is the only quarterback that could be QB1 in this draft, they're wrong. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be. But there's by no means everybody in the league is Caleb Williams is the guy and nobody else can touch him. That's completely false. Let's eliminate that right now. I'm hearing Jaden Daniels a lot.
It's actually a shame. Sorry, I was trying to cut Mel Kiper off because the moment he started to talk, I can only think of one thing. It's a shame they got rid of Todd McShay at ESPN, because every time I hear Mel Kiper, all I remember is him screaming, Todd, 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 Todd. That's all I hear now whenever he speaks. You could have stopped playing that clip 20 seconds ago. I didn't even listen to it because I was just thinking, Todd, 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 Todd.
Well, if you didn't hear it, what he was saying was that Jaden McDaniels is making the rounds as the hot name that could potentially be the number 1 overall pick, the Heisman winner from LSU. So onside, offside, you believe Jaden Daniels will be a better NFL quarterback than Caleb Williams?
I actually do like Jaden Daniels, and I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he's fit to play football in the year of what would be next year, 2024. And I do think he's getting slept on, but I would still say that Caleb Williams is better, so I would go offside. Offside. But it could end up working out better for Jaden Daniels, because he could maybe fall down that draft board a little bit and go to a better destination, and then you're set up for better success. All righty, that is onside, offside. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. By the way, I thought I had a good parlay last night that I gave out on the show at like plus 340 something. It was Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown, Browns money line, and then it was Breece Hall over 3.5 receptions. I also, right before the game started, took the Detroit Pistons last night on the money line. It was at like plus 800 or plus 850. And then by like the end of I think it was by like the 3 minutes into the game, it went down to plus 650. And the game went into overtime. The Pistons almost won.
They were up by 21 at one point.
Yeah, no, I was at a sports bar last night. I had them put on the game because I was betting on it. But I think I'm going to bet the Pistons. I made this declaration last night on the money line until they win a game. Like, they've now lost, 27, 28 games? 28 games in a row? I think I'm going to take them on the money line until they end up winning. I'll probably lose a bunch of money, but hey, when it hits, it will be good.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, and we continue hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We are inching closer and closer to Monday for the college football playoff to commence. We have Michigan and Alabama in the Rose Bowl, and then we will have the Sugar Bowl, of course, between Texas and Washington. And I was texting my buddy Roman Harper the other day, former NFL safety, played his college ball at Alabama, and I was like, I'm excited for Alabama and Michigan. And he was like, I'm more excited for Texas and Washington. And I'm like, I think Alabama-Michigan's going to be a great game. And he's like, Zach, I know you like Michigan. I know you root for Michigan, but Alabama is going to kick the crap out of the Wolverines. So now joining us, Alabama homer, former Alabama safety, now a part of the SEC network, the great Roman Harper. Roman, appreciate the time. How you been, my friend?
Zach, I'm good, man. First of all, that was a great picture of you and your little logo leading up to it that I was looking at. It's just a great picture of you, dude, just to let you know that. And I'm not saying Alabama's will cook the crap out of Michigan, but I do think they're going to win the game. And I'm still waiting on you to convince me how Michigan wins this game.
Well, you convince me first. Why are you so confident about the Alabama Crimson Tide and why they're going to take down Michigan?
Well, I'm going to take as much bias out as I can, and I just look at the teams for what they are. And styles make fights. And when I watch Alabama, I think they have the advantage. So let's just look at how does each team go about winning the game? And so when I look at Michigan is an undefeated conference champion that does what they do. That's what they've done all year long. Doesn't matter who they play. They are who they are. They haven't really changed personalities versus this team versus that team. So they're a run-first team that's going to use 21, 12 personnel, multiple tight ends, and they run the football, then they throw the football off of that. And mostly utilizing the tight ends as well, which is a great matchup versus most teams. Then I look on the other side and I look at Alabama's defense, and I'm like, all right, well, Alabama's big. Nobody's just going to out-physical and push them around. I know Michigan's going to move gaps and pull guys and do some other things to make sure the gaps are moving and not just trying to bully Alabama, but they do like to play bully ball. And nobody really bullies Alabama since Nick Saban's been there. They're too big. They're too physical. That's just what he recruits. And then, okay, so you use 2 tight ends. You want to do some other things. Michigan has one receiver that's a threat, Roman Wilson, my favorite name in college football. And then, so he's a threat. They like to use him in different motion situations to get him open, get him off the line because he's not a very big guy. So they use motion to get him away from guys and then get him up the field in big explosive plays, come off of that. Outside of that, then they use tight ends like Colston Lake.
Loveland, yeah.
Loveland, that's it. And number 89, his name is slipping my name right now too. So these are the tight ends they use. And so Alabama, with Caleb Downs, they're going to use him in big nickel situations, put him in the box. They still have their coverage guys on the outside and Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Alabama loves that matchup. And the strength of Alabama's defense is the secondary piece. And so if you don't have the advantage where you can get big and still be able to run the ball and pass off of it, because now you have safeties that can cover. You also have the 2 corners on the outside that you love that matchup versus any receiver of Michigan. That's advantage Alabama. And so where do you get the advantage at? Okay, quarterback runs, but J.J. McCarthy's athletic. He's not Mike Vick. It's a difference. And so if they were able to handle Jaden Daniels in the same type of situations with a great rush plan, I think they have the same ability to be able to do that versus a Michigan team that J.J. McCarthy is not the same threat that Jaden Daniels in. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, how's Michigan getting to 24 points? They have to get to 24 points some kind of way or another. And I think Alabama, with their explosiveness on offense, and all of you have to stop with Jalen Milroe. Michigan has not faced a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. I understand he has some deficiencies here and there, whatever you want to say, but Michigan has not spied a quarterback all year long. So now you got to implement some kind of spy game, and we saw Georgia do that for the first time, and it didn't work for Georgia as well either. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how Michigan gets those 24 points or 24, 28 to 30 points to try and win this game versus Alabama. I know that Alabama will be able to score at some point. I just don't know how much because of the explosiveness of their offense and also their quarterback.
Yes, so we have a different view on this game. Roman Harper is here with us. Does a great job, SEC Network. You said 24 points. It's funny. My final score for this game is Michigan 23, Alabama 20. And I think this is a physical, old-school style football game. And Blake Corum is the toughest running back in the country. Donovan Edwards will be good for one big explosive play that we're usually not accustomed to allowing to be able to see Nick Saban giving that up. And then you hit the nail on the head. McCarthy is going to be the difference in this game. And I say this full disclosure. I do not love J.J. McCarthy, but I think the best thing to happen to Michigan was last year, I'm screaming when it was Michigan TCU, use his legs, use his legs, use his legs. And they allowed him to be a little bit more mobile in the second half against TCU. Now, I know they're not going up against TCU. They're going up against Alabama. I get that. But I think they unleash McCarthy coming up on Monday, and they trust his legs early in the game, and I think that's going to make for a major difference.
Yeah, I think so. The thing I like about Corum is that he's a running back that kind of hits the hole with speed and power, right? Like, reminds me a lot of Mark Ingram. When Mark Ingram would hit the hole, he explodes through the hole with power. So they break a lot more arm tackles and things of that nature. But Michigan's O-line, without the guard, they've had an injury or two up front.
Yeah. It's not as good as the offensive line the last 2 years. You're right on that.
Right. I agree. I agree with that. So it's like, all right, so how do they get those explosive runs? Alabama, they're like, dude, we're going to put 8-9 guys in the box and dare you to beat us another way. And you give Nick Saban a month to prepare. I just think a lot of these things are leaning towards Alabama's favor when I continue to rattle my brain about how do you go about winning this game? How do you go about winning this game? Now, the one thing that we cannot count on are turnovers. And if Michigan forces Alabama into mistakes and turnovers, all defensively or special teams, then Michigan sets themselves up to win this game. But if you do not do that, if this thing's all square and turnovers, that I don't think it bodes well for Michigan. That's just the matchup that I see. And you definitely do not want this to be any type of drop back game because Michigan's O-line, the tackles, they look more like guards that are playing tackle. And that just is not a good matchup versus Dallas Turner or Chris Braswell, who we know can both really, really rush the passer efficiently. So I'm really interested and intrigued about the matchups and the unknown of Jim Harbaugh. I think the unknown of Jim Harbaugh is another thing that not enough people are going to talk about that I really look at because I played against Jim Harbaugh when he was coaching the 49ers in the playoffs. He's always got a play or two, a wrinkle that nobody sees, nobody's ready for. So how do you stay disciplined enough to be ready and prepared for those things so those big plays don't kill you and cost you? And so Alabama did a great job versus Georgia keeping everything in front of them, playing a lot more coverage, keeping two high safeties, playing a lot more combo coverages where every two receivers that you got, we got three defenders on them, okay? And so we win in that number, and then we're going to let our up-front guys win in the run game. Stay disciplined in your gaps because when I watch Michigan on tape, it's not like they're just blowing people off the ball. As much as they're so consistent with the run game, all they need is one guy to get out of a gap. And Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards hit that hole late. And then that's when they get their explosive plays. So Alabama has to stay disciplined in their run gaps. And if they do that, they just make it so much harder on Michigan because Michigan is not an explosive team outside of the run game and then a couple of deep shots down the field. So, but when you just look at them per player, Alabama is not afraid of Roman Wilson. They're not afraid of Colston Loveland. So that part of it, I think Alabama has a different sense of confidence, maybe quiet confidence. But I like the matchup if I'm Alabama. And I can't wait till you actually want to mention the other game as well. Even though I know you're a Michigan guy.
Well, we'll get to that game in just a second. But you talk about a trick play. I'm telling you, there's going to be a second half orgy in this game with Alex Orgy. They've been using it in the last few weeks. Run. He is going to have a big pass in this game and make his first completion of the season. Get ready for that second half orgy, Roman.
I would be shocked. But I wouldn't be shocked because this is exactly what I just said would happen. Was that Harbaugh's going to do something that nobody's ready for? Because the moment Alex Orji comes in, I'm going zero blitz. I'm eating up all the gaps, and I'm going to make him beat us some other way than just a quarterback power, which is all he's shown to be able to do, or that they've allowed him to do so far. That's not all he can do, but I'm sure. But that is what he does really well. He's a big quarterback, too, that runs downhill. So, but Alabama, man, they're just really big as well. So, and maybe we're all are becoming, we're just so used to the last time we saw these teams, which was Michigan really struggling to put on an offensive showcase versus an Iowa team that's not very athletic, that I've never seen the defense run cover 3 so many times in one game and just never mix up any other look, and versus Michigan. And Michigan couldn't do anything about it because what Iowa did was they just got in their gaps and stayed there. And we didn't get out of our gaps. We all stayed in the place we were supposed to be at. And if you're disciplined enough to be boring and basic and just do that all day consistently enough, then you're going to give yourself a chance. Because the biggest thing is run the run game. To stop the running game, it's all a numbers game. If I got 8 guys, I got that advantage. Now, if you bring in the quarterback run game, then you got 9. So because you got an extra blocker, so then you got a little bit of extra problems. That's why you're saying J.J. McCarthy could be up. But I just – if Michigan wants to all of a sudden do something completely different, I don't know most teams that are successful that way, that have been able to win 10 games, that are undefeated conference champion, that has reached the pinnacle, the number 1 team in the country, doing things one way, and then all of a sudden getting the biggest game of the year and do it a little bit or completely different. That's just really hard for everybody to wrap their heads around. But you do have a month to prepare. So it'll be interesting to see. I just don't see teams being successful that way. I haven't been around it.
Do you think, Roman Harper, this is the finest coaching job Nick Saban has done in his illustrious career at Alabama?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think the book is not written yet. It's not complete. Now, if they go on to win it, then probably so. You could possibly say that, but I think it just looks so different than what you're used to seeing. Alabama did not look good early in this season. This team has figured out who they are, what works for them, and that's what we should give Nick Saban more credit on, is that he's never just a stake in the ground. You know what I mean? He's not like, I'm just planting my flag here and this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. Doesn't matter what. He's always like, well, what works best for this team? What works best for this player? How can I give this player, add more value to him and his life on and off the field all the time? And so because he's never just a flag in the sand type guy, I think they're always evolving. They went from a run-first team to a Lane Kiffin, hurry-up offense, spread the ball all around, throw it around the ballpark, to then go back to Derrick Henry toting the rock type offense, to then Bryce Young and Mac Jones throwing it all over the place, to now more of a run-first, throwing the ball some, being more explosive and leaning on the defensive type team as well. So when you can win in multiple facets, that really shows how great of a coach you are, because not so much that you're so much smarter than everybody, but it's more like it's not about me and ego, and that it's not about just me and how we're going to do things, but just more about what's best for my team, and let's go do that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you will agree with this or not, but when he benched Milroe, and I said this at the time when he went back to him the next week, when he benched Milroe, I thought that was the first time going into that USF game that he actually heard like the outside criticism. I don't think he actually wanted to bench Milroe when he did it, but he felt as if he had to, and that's why he went back to him so quickly shortly after that.
Was that not like a Jedi mind trick? Is that like a parent just tricking their kid into, all right, you think you want this, but this is what you really need, okay? And so, all right, I'll give you this. You need it. And so that was the one really cool thing about that whole deal, was that I was actually a little nervous about it too, because
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing Roman, obviously. He's driving around, so I think we just lost him for a second. I think we got him back, though. Roman, can you hear me all right? All righty. So I don't think we're able to reconnect with Roman Harper. If we get him back up, that'd be great. I just want to ask him one more question about Texas and Washington, but if we're not good to go, then that is all right. Good conversation with Roman Harper right there, who was joining us on CBS Sports Radio from the SEC Network as he gets set for Michigan and Alabama, and we also have Texas and Washington as well. We're just going to try to reconnect him. I still think he's actually up on the screen, but we're just having trouble hearing him. So Roman Harper's back. All right, let's wrap it up this way. Texas, Washington, what do you love about this matchup? I think it's a high-scoring affair. I think Washington pulls this game out late, but it wouldn't surprise me either way. I think this is like a 34-31 game, but I'm going Washington.
Man, I'm kind of with you. I'm going Washington as well. I think I haven't decided completely, but Zach, I went through a valley right there, bro. Over here, I'm about to go golf with my cousin. So, yeah. And so what really happened was that, so I like this Washington Texas matchup because I don't know. So everybody's been telling us that Texas is the better team, and when you look at a roster per person, like maybe Texas is better. Like Texas is back in that way. But when you look at where Texas is strong at, that D-line, like, is their D-line really going to be that much of an advantage in this game? If it is not the biggest advantage that we think it's going to be or anticipate it being, then Washington's going to win this game. And the thing that kind of takes away the advantage of Texas is they're so big and physical in the middle, but Washington doesn't run the ball in the middle. They pick the ball up, they throw it out fast to their wide receivers. They do a lot of screens. They get the ball out wide. And when they run the football, they do a lot of pin and pull runs, which is they bring a tight end in, they block down on the end, they pull a guard or a tackle, they get to the edges. So they're not really running downhill. They're always getting to the edges. So this team attacks you horizontally way more than they do vertically. And then off of that, they got some passes downfield that, man, this guy Michael Penix can straight up throw it. I hate his throwing technique, but everybody's going to love on him just a little bit more naturally because he's a lefty. Everybody loves a left-handed quarterback. They just look different. They feel pretty. It's just the whole deal. But he's inaccurate at times. But these receivers of Washington are a problem. And Texas secondary is not the best as well. I hate the coverages that they play a lot of times just because as a safety, whenever you don't touch a slot receiver and I look up and 12 yards down the field, it's always man-to-man coverage. I don't like that. So that's what Texas finds himself doing a lot of, and Washington is going to try and take advantage of that. Also, doing a little bit of go-back film last year, a lot of these same players played in this game last year in this game, the Alamo Bowl. And Texas did not affect Michael Penix like they wanted to. Washington affected Quinn Ewers a lot more last year than Texas affected Michael Penix. And because of that, I think a lot of these simulators will rise. And I think I'm leaning towards Washington in an upset in this one.
All righty, Roman Harper, enjoy the traveling. We appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this, and Happy New Year to you and your family.
Hey, man, Happy New Year's, man. Thanks, Zach, as always, having me, man. Appreciate it, man. I'll be listening.
You got it. Thanks so much. There he is, Roman Harper, the great Roman Harper, joining us on CBS Sports Radio. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio with the news brief. But first up, I was just about to toss it to an update. But that's not the case right now because we're not at 4:30 yet. I don't know. For some reason, I did this on the 6 to 10 show. Whenever I'm about to go to the news brief and tease the news brief, I always am about to toss it to an update. So maybe I have some of the announcer yips right there. But anyway, we'll come on back in 5 minutes. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
You can stream the NFL on What's the One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You listen to every What's the One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open What's the One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Alrighty, let's start off with Jamar Chase. This was the audio we were talking about yesterday. Let's hear it in its entirety. This is Jamar Chase when he was asked what's so special about the Chiefs' secondary.
If I'm being honest, nothing. They just know how to play us. They know the leverages. They know what splits we in. They just know what we going to do, certain movements. They throw a little double-doubles at us to stop the two best players on the outside, and that's all they do. I mean, it's not really like they got a Jalen Ramsey on these squads, you know what I'm saying? So, not much.
So when you go back to the question of that, this has been thrown out on social media where it's, and I said this yesterday in the moment, I said I had to hear the question because you see the quote and it's like, oh man, that's really disrespectful to the entire defense. Like nothing special about the Chiefs defense. Look at their defensive line. Chris Jones is one of the best players, not only on the defense side of the ball, but in football, period. And the question was, what's so special about the Chiefs secondary? That was the question. Do they do anything special? And I've seen a lot of people have put the quote out there as if the question was, oh, Jamar Chase says there's nothing special about the Chiefs defense. And I think that's a big difference and a big distinction between the two. Because, like, if you look at the Chiefs secondary, L'Jarius Sneed's the one player that really stands out to me, but I don't think there's anything special about the Chiefs secondary. Now, if you said the entire defense, I think that would be an absurd answer, but I'm actually going to defend Jamar Chase a little bit, because if you go back and listen to the question once again, it wasn't about the entirety of the defense. It was about what makes the secondary special, but they do anything special, something along those lines, with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, here's Jamar Chase, and when he was asked if he enjoys trash talking the Kansas City Chiefs, because this is not the first time.
Do you enjoy that back and forth? I mean, it seems to happen every single game you play.
Hell yeah. They talk the most, that's why. Yeah, I love it.
But you guys enjoy it? There's no hate? Or is there some hate between both sides?
No comment. No comment.
I don't know. Samter, you're a Chiefs fan, so you're definitely biased. A Fugazi Chiefs fan. I wish you guys could see the look that Manny just gave Samter. When I said, Samter, you're a Chiefs fan, Manny said, you are? Well, what the heck is going on? Because everyone knows Samter's actually a Jet fan, but he's become this Fugazi Chiefs fan because he's sick and tired of watching the JATS Jets. So maybe you're somewhat biased here. I actually think the Bengals do more trash talking than Kansas City. Like, it wasn't the Kansas City Chiefs who trash talked before that AFC title game. It started when Mike Hilton was on the sideline in Buffalo after smothering the Bills, where he was like, we're going to Burrowhead. I'm not saying the Chiefs don't talk smack. Willie Gay talks smack. But I would say the Bengals talk more trash than the Kansas City Chiefs, Samter.
It seems like in the locker room they do. Although you never know what Travis Kelce's going to say on the New Heights podcast. But maybe on the field. Maybe he's talking more like on the field kind of stuff. I don't know for sure, but I know the Chiefs do talk a lot of smack on the field, as I'm sure a lot of teams do. So maybe it's more the on-field trash talking.
And let's just call it what it is. These are two teams that have been two of the better teams in the NFL. Not this year, but the two previous seasons. And they have met up in an AFC championship game. One went the Bengals' way. One went the Kansas City Chiefs' way. But really, the Bengals have been that lone team that have been the kryptonite to Kansas City. And a lot of teams, I'm not saying this year, but for the last few years, they fear Kansas City. The Bengals don't fear Kansas City. And let me just remind everyone, there's no Joe Burrow in this game. He's done for the season. It's Jake Browning.
Burrow had my ass!
All right, maybe they do talk some trash. But that was after the game, too, with Travis Kelce. So, if the Bengals win this one, I think it just shows you how the Chiefs are just not that good this year. Because Jake Browning going into Burrowhead, Arrowhead this weekend, like, I have a tough time seeing the Bengals win, but then yet again, it's not like I have any trust in Kansas City right now. Their offense stinks right now. But you would think that Mahomes would be able to outscore Jake Browning. All righty, let's play one more from Jamar Chase. What if the Chiefs uses his comments as some bulletin board material?
Body language is everything.
They take it how they want to. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's so much that I can do myself. It's not like I'm Iron Man. I can't throw the football to myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a team sport. I know what I see on paper. I know what I see in game. That's why they double everybody. Because they can't do it one-on-one. I'm not bugged about it. They know I'm good. They know how to play us. That's what it is. But it's not like they got a superstar on their defense.
All righty. I don't think that was what we were supposed to toss to, but we'll keep it moving here on CBS.
That was the right clip, but it seemed like Manny's computer froze. So we'll go with technical difficulties on that one.
Okay.
But that was the correct clip.
Okay. Let's go to Dante Hall on Good Morning Football. His message to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Body language is everything. When you are screaming and yelling at your players, that permeates negatively. What you have had in the first 5 years, that poker face, we know we're going to win this in the end, that permeates positively. Get back to being positive. It's like my little kids running around here on Christmas Day. We've got you a Christmas tree full of presents, and you're acting like spoiled little brats. This is not a good look. I'm watching the game with my kids, and you're acting like that? Come on, guys. Be better, and I think the team would be better.
So I think he's sort of right, but then there's part of me that says, I don't always agree. Like, sometimes you need your leader and the best player in football, and Patrick Mahomes, to lose his mind. But I thought the spot he did it in this year and the way that he did it was telling that he doesn't really have confidence in this group. And then that becomes a problem because then people question themselves even in the locker room. and, are we all on the same page? Like, the spot he lost his mind was when Kadarius Toney lined up offside. And it cost them the Buffalo Bills game after the craziness of the Travis Kelce lateral to Toney, which was a touchdown, then was taken off the board. Him losing his mind wasn't really being irate at the officials. The officials got the call right. It was egregious how far offside Kadarius Toney was. But him freaking out was more so him knowing, man, we got a lot of problems. And then they continued it for a day, bitching and complaining about the refs when the refs were actually in the right. And I think you have some guys with some big egos in that locker room. Like, Kadarius Toney has a big ego, but he stinks on the field. Like, he is horrible. He's cost the Chiefs 2 games this year. The first game of the season, and then the Buffalo Bills game. So I'm not saying Mahomes is a bad leader, because I think the guy's a good leader. But his freak out was so clearly obvious about him basically, even though he didn't say this, knowing that they don't have the horses this year. And I think that just sends a vibe in the locker room where guys aren't stupid, and they kind of picked up on that as well. And if your receivers can't catch the ball, I don't care how good your quarterback is or how great your quarterback is, he can only throw it so many times. If the same result over and over again is drop, 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 you're not going to win many games in this league. And I think Kansas City has a lot, and I mean a lot of flaws, and they're going to be quickly in and then out of the postseason. Let's listen up to Robert Saleh last night. I guess some reporter wasn't thrilled with the way that Robert Saleh was conducting himself at the podium and wanted to see a little bit more anger from the coach of the New York Jets.
You don't seem, I mean, maybe you're not conveying what you really feel inside, but you don't seem like particularly like angry or upset about it. I'm wondering if you could just share like what's really churning inside of you now.
I'm not quite sure on the question, Rich.
You don't seem like.
Do you want me to throw the podium on the floor?
Whatever you want to do.
It's weird because everyone says Robert Saleh is a likable guy, and I don't have a relationship with him, so maybe he is a likable guy when everyone says you're a likable guy. But sometimes the likable guy doesn't make for the best head coach. And I think the players walk too much over Robert Saleh. And not only that, man, how many times are you going to have too many men on the field? And how many times is your team going to jump offside and make a crucial penalty? Like, don't get me wrong. Their season was over 4 plays into the season when Aaron Rodgers went down. But the mental mistakes and the penalties, doesn't matter who your quarterback is, it's not a good reflection on the coach, and it's a team that is poorly disciplined. And Saleh's now, I guess he could be immune to this because he says the same things each and every week. And it's got to be demoralizing when you had to go through this entire season with all the optimism, and then it goes right out the window 4 plays into the season. And he knows the team's eliminated. He knows the team's almost done. But I still think it's important how you talk at the podium. I'm not saying he has to flip a table and go nuts and go crazy on us. But I just don't think he's the right guy to be the coach of the Jets. But ultimately, Aaron Rodgers likes him, so he'll be back next year. And Woody Johnson even already said that. All righty, let's get to 2 more. Here's Jalen Milroe, not happy with the former Alabama offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien, who once told Jalen Milroe maybe he should change positions. Here is Jalen Milroe.
All my life, even when I was in college. My own offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, told me I shouldn't play quarterback. There's a lot of things I can have motivation on, and that is something I have motivation from.
How you felt when you said that?
How would you feel if I told you you suck?
I would like it.
Okay then, so that's exactly how I felt, you know what I'm saying? So like, biggest thing for me, be true to myself and, stay the same. Nothing changed about me. Only thing that changed me was I had the opportunity and I seized it.
Was there a position he wanted you to play or said you should be this position or that position, or he just...
He told me a bunch of business I could have switched to, but look where I'm at right now. So, you know what I'm saying? So who gets the last laugh?
It's kind of refreshing to actually hear an Alabama player be honest. Remember a few years ago, before they were going up against Oklahoma in one of the college football playoff games, Quinnen Williams is about to trash Kyler Murray and say, I don't think he's as good as a quarterback as what people make him out to be. And right as he was about to start to say that, he just froze up and he was smiled in Quinnen Williams fashion, was like, never mind. I'm good. Because Saban has an antenna in all these guys' heads, I'm convinced. And anytime they're about to say something controversial, you have this alarm go off. This is Nick Saban. Stop saying what you're about to say. Remember, we are Alabama. We give nothing to those evil pigs in the media. I'm convinced that's what happens. It's like the SpongeBob SquarePants scene when he goes to the driving school and Squidward is basically in an antenna in SpongeBob's hat and he's telling him which way to turn. That's how I envision Nick Saban has this chip in all of the Alabama players' heads. Convinced by that. Let's go to Isaiah Bond. Last one we'll play. So Isaiah Bond was the guy that made the catch that was thrown from Jalen Milroe on that 4th and goal for Alabama up against Auburn. It was a 32, 33-yard touchdown, whatever it was. Isaiah Bond said that Alabama can't watch film on their own personal tablets because of Michigan. Listen up.
It's basically like the app will record like film off for practice and stuff like that, and they was like, I guess like looking at other people's like play calls and like their hand signals like the first 8 games or something like that. So we wasn't able to we was able to watch film with the team, but like personally we can't watch film because like I don't know, some reason with Michigan stealing signs, but I'm not really too keen on that.
Your coaches told you that?
Yeah, our coach told us that probably like a week ago before we was like right before we about to come here, like getting prepared for Michigan.
It's like on your individual tablets that you would normally be watching.
Yeah.
Right now you guys are not watching.
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
I don't know. I call cap on that, as the kids would say. Seriously. There was a sign stealing scandal. Connor Stallions now is able to hack into your tablets too. And then Roman Wilson of Michigan revealed today that their football team has only been able to watch film in group sessions as well. This is the paranoia when you have a minor sign stealing scandal and it gets turned into a bigger deal. Then all these coaches are all paranoid to begin with. They're like, we can't watch film on our own players' personal tablets. Because Stallions, even though he's off the team, he's probably still getting paid by Harbaugh, and he's going to hack in to our tablet. You know what? Michigan's winning the game. Michigan 23, Alabama 20, because Alabama, they seem scared. They're paranoid. Oh, I can't watch my film on my own personal tablet because the boogeyman, Jim Harbaugh and Connor Stallions, they're watching. Give me a break. That's a joke. All righty, that's a news brief. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Who should win Comeback Player of the Year? We'll get to that next. Update time first. Here is Dexter Henry.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, NFL News is going to kick off this update. The Jaguars, they have ruled out quarterback Trevor Lawrence for Sunday's game against the Panthers. The Week 17 contest will be the first time that Lawrence will miss a game due to injury, snapping a streak of 49 consecutive starts. C.J. Beathard will get the nod against Carolina. Colts receiver Michael Pittman Jr. cleared the NFL's concussion protocol on Friday and is expected to return for Sunday's matchup with the Raiders. Looks like the Bills are getting healthier on defense. Earlier today, head coach Sean McDermott said that he anticipates both defensive tackle Daquan Jones and safety Micah Hyde playing in Sunday's game against the Patriots. We shift to the world of college football, where earlier today at the Gator Bowl, scoring was in abundance. Clemson ended the year on a 5-game winning streak thanks to Phil Maffa. The Tigers running back rushed for 4 touchdowns, including a 3-yarder with 17 seconds to go, as Clemson knocked off Kentucky 38-35. At the Sun Bowl, Oregon State and Notre Dame are battling right now. In the fourth quarter, Notre Dame up 24-0 on Oregon State. At the Liberty Bowl, saw Memphis 19-7 lead over Iowa State. Later on tonight, the Cotton Bowl goes down from Arlington, Texas, as Missouri battles Ohio State. I'm Dexter Henry.
We are CBS Sports Radio, and our Twitter handle is @CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Let's take a look at who's got home field advantage this weekend. Our NCAA football preview is sponsored by Fairfield by Marriott. Fairfield by Marriott is the official hotel partner of the NCAA with over 1,000 locations around the country. You always have the home field advantage. Visit fairfield.marriott.com to book your stay. While it's not your typical home field advantage, Michigan takes on Alabama in the Rose Bowl this weekend. And the Wolverines have played in the Rose Bowl 20 previous times, the second most in history behind only USC, going 8-12 in those games. So, I don't know. That's a little, I like how you stretch that one there, Sam.
I mean, it's bowl game season. How are you supposed to find a home field advantage? So I got to find something.
So-
Right, the old Big Ten, Pac-12, Rose Bowl, that was like the legend.
But objectively here, like I'm reading this, and I go, oh, Santa's about to give me a pro-Michigan stat here. And it's like, oh, they have the home field advantage. They've been the team that's played in the Rose Bowl the most outside of USC. And then it's like, oh, yeah, but they elected to go 8-12 in those games. Like, that doesn't make me feel good about this one. Is that a home field advantage?
But you know what, though? Because they know that field so well, they've been there so often that it's kind of like a home field advantage. Because, Big Ten versus Pac-12, they're always going up against a West Coast team. But now Michigan's going up against Alabama. Michigan knows that field. Michigan knows that area. Michigan knows that stadium. So
I just want to look up something real quick.
Maybe?
No, definitely not. Like, I think Michigan's going to win the game. It has nothing to do that, the Rose Bowl may be their second home. But I just want to see one thing. The last time Michigan was in the Rose Bowl, so I'm just going to do a quick search here.
It was a little while ago. They lost like their last 3 times that they were in the Rose Bowl.
So I'm trying to, okay. The first one I see is 2007, where they lost 32-18 to USC, the other team that you use for that stat. I'm just going to do a quick look, make sure that we're right on that. Yeah, we are. In 2008, how old was Blake Corum? How old was Donovan Edwards? These guys don't know the Rose Bowl, but I did find it funny that you saw Nick Saban with Mickey Mouse this week. Out in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh and Nick Saban, 2 coaches who I don't necessarily think look cool. With Mickey Mouse, they were both very much out of place.
And don't forget, back in 1986, when Jim Harbaugh led Michigan against number 7 Arizona State and lost to my Sun Devils. Let's go, Sun Devils.
Yeah.
In the Rose Bowl.
So Jim Harbaugh, what, just because he sniffed the turf of the Rose Bowl, now he has an advantage? Who knows? Maybe Jim Harbaugh is putting the old school tape of all the old practices of Michigan into the Alabama tablets, and the Alabama programs look at that old film and think that's what's going to happen to Michigan coming up on the first day of 2024. I don't know about you. That tablet story, as Emmitt Smith would say, it makes me hot. It makes me mad. Like, you have this guy, Isaiah Bond, just throw out that, we can't watch film because Michigan had access to our like, what? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Now, do you think that Alabama being thrown off a little bit from the normal routine, and we know that football players' routine is very important. Does it throw, I'm not saying in trouble.
855-212-4CBS.
But does it throw them off just a little bit that these guys aren't able to do their normal routine prepping for this game?
No, because it'd be one thing if the other team wasn't doing it, but Michigan was also saying that this week they have only watched film together as a team as well. And also, I know the preparation doesn't happen for the entirety of the month that they've had off, but there's been too much time to prepare. So even if you had to alter the way that you prepare for a game, you're going to have it figured out when you have a month to get ready for a game. Like, if you're not ready for the game, that's embarrassing. Especially when you have 2 powerhouse programs, 2 great programs. And I know Roman Harper, is an Alabama honk. All right. I love my guy, Roman Harper, but he's an Alabama honk. And he's going to basically say that Michigan's going to get the crap beat out of him. Maybe he's right. Who knows? Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong, but, I like to think I'm going to be right on this one. I think this is going to be a classic just slugfest. I really do. And I think you're going to see a lot of running here with Milroe. Michigan loves to run the football with Corum and Donovan Edwards, and the mobility of J.J. McCarthy, extending plays, even if he's not running the ball down the field, but just extending plays. I think they're going to have to use the legs a lot of J.J. McCarthy. So I'm going Michigan in this one, 23-20. But it's not because poor Alabama hasn't been able to watch film on their personal tablets. All righty. We had this conversation about a month ago, I think, Samter. Maybe like a month and a half ago, where we asked, does Damar Hamlin have to win Comeback Player of the Year? And when we were going through the definition of Comeback Player of the Year, I think a lot of people believe it's, okay, you had something horrible happen to you. Injury, obviously, what happened to Damar Hamlin is an anomaly. But you have something that goes really wrong to you, and you miss football, and then you come back and you play great, or you play well. But that's not always what is the true definition of comeback player of the year. It's a very vague, ambiguous definition. And I remember when Alex Smith was up for it, I forget who the player was, but I was one of the lone people on the radio to say, what Alex Smith went through, I don't wish on my worst enemy. And it's remarkable that he's on the field. But there are better players that also went through something that are having by far and away better seasons than Alex Smith. I do ultimately believe that Damar Hamlin, because of the vagueness of the award and also the fact that the guy almost nearly died on a football field, and he somehow, it's miraculous. Like, I love Damar Hamlin. The fact that he's able to walk, the fact that he is alive, the fact that he's able to play in some games this year, from being on the air while it happened that night, live on the air, no one said it, but we were all thinking about it. Everyone, when we were watching that game, and it was like we had an hour left in the show, and we had to talk to Damar Hamlin, but there was no updates. Everyone thought the guy died. And the fact that he is alive, let alone was able to play a little bit this year, is crazy. It's one of the greatest turnarounds that you'll ever see. But just because that happened, I also think, in my opinion, you got to play on the field at a high level. But I don't think that's the way most voters are going to look at it because of how vague the definition of the award is. Like Tua, even though he went through horrible things, it's not what Damar Hamlin went through, but Tua has played a lot better football than Damar Hamlin. Joe Flacco, a lot better football than Damar Hamlin. You could even make the case maybe Baker Mayfield as well. Now, he didn't get injured last year, but that's also the vagueness of the award. Like, you don't have to get injured. He was just bad last year in Baker Mayfield. So, because of the fact that Damar Hamlin nearly died, and how it's not necessarily tied to performance on the field, it's just persevering and overcoming adversity, I do think Damar Hamlin ends up winning the award. Now, a month and a half ago, I said I think he will win the award and he should win the award. Now I will say that he will win the award, but if I was voting and I don't have a vote, I would probably consider voting for either Tua or for Joe Flacco.
Do you think that he's going to get the award just like guilt votes? That people will vote for him, not because they think that he deserves it, but they're afraid, well, what if I don't? Like he should get it just because of what happened, but like, whatever.
So I want to be clear here when we talk about this. Like, what he overcame, we've never seen anything like it. And there's really no criteria for this award other than you have to overcome some horrible adversity or bad play, injury, something like that. My problem is more so, it's not with Damar Hamlin. Like, if he wins the award, I don't think anyone's going to actually have like a legitimate gripe over this. But it's just more so, the definition is just so weird. Where I think there should be something in the definition about play on the field. And ultimately, you're probably right. He is going to win the award. But, like, if I voted for Damar, it wouldn't be because I felt like I was forced to vote for Damar Hamlin. Or I wouldn't use the word guilty. Like, I personally don't see it that way. I just don't understand the side of the argument, if you want to clarify it up real quickly.
No, I'm not saying that I would do that either, but I just wonder if voters would say, maybe I think Tua is more deserving, but like I can't not vote for Damar Hamlin.
Okay.
Like it would be a bad look for me.
Well, it was such a traumatic experience that we all saw.
Yeah.
Like I understand if people think that way. The only thing I will say is I think like it's remarkable. It's the greatest story that you'll see that he was able to step foot in the field this year. But he didn't really do anything on the field. Now, just him getting on the field is something that is greater than any of us could have imagined. And it's an accomplishment that may make it all superior than all the other things. But I look at this as the way that you're playing on the field. And Tua's been playing great this year. Joe Flacco, for this last month, has been playing great this year. And my only thing is, I wish there would be a clearer definition on how much the on-field success does matter. Because if it doesn't matter and it's just you get on the field, then yeah, obviously, Damar Hamlin should win the award. All righty, we'll take a break. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll get into a little Texas and Washington next as we preview the other semifinal game coming up on New Year's Day.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All right, you have number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So Russell Wilson just held court in the Broncos locker room. Man, that kind of shows you how quickly it's fallen for Russ. You don't even get a podium anymore. They don't even put him in front of a podium and do a traditional press conference. It's just right by his locker, and you have a scrum with all those reporters that are just lining up and circling around Russ. And it's like, have at it. All righty. Let's hear from Russell Wilson. So he did confirm that the reports were true, that after the Kansas City game, so they beat Green Bay, they beat Kansas City. And think about that. That was the start of their winning streak where they start to turn it around before it then fall off once again. That the Broncos approached him and they asked him to take out the injury guarantee clause in his contract or else they were going to bench him. Russ said they came up to me during the bye week, and beginning of the bye week, Monday or Tuesday, they told me if I didn't change my contract, my injury guarantee, that I'd be benched for the rest of the year. I was definitely disappointed about it. It was a process for the whole bye week. We just we just came off beating the Chiefs. I was excited for us fighting for the playoffs and getting on a hot streak. The NFLPA and NFL got involved or whatever at some point. Like, Samter, maybe you understand the legal part of this better than I am. And I usually hate when sports end up becoming a litigious situation. But that just doesn't seem right. Like, you agreed to a contract. I understand there are modifications to a contract from time to time. Like when COVID happened and there was a lot of financial happenings involved in the company because the whole world was changing. A lot of us had our contracts modified, or there were some tweaks made in our contracts, but it wasn't ever like you have to do this or we get rid of you. You have to do this or you lose your show. It was a peaceful process. And also, I'm a union member, and my union got involved as well, just as like a general landscape of guidelines for union employees. But can an employer go, like in the NFL, and I guess they can, I don't know what was the extent that the NFLPA and the NFL got involved, but you agreed to a 5-year contract, and then there was 2 previous years on it, which makes it, I guess, a 7-year deal. Can you go to a player and say, I'm going to bench you, and the only way I won't bench you is if you take out the injury guarantee clause in your contract? Like, Samter, to me, that seems like the Wilson camp, if it did go down that way, and there's 2 sides to every story. There was a report. We haven't really heard Sean Payton talk about this because he won't be honest with you anyway whenever he talks. And now Russell Wilson confirms the report. But that just doesn't seem right that the Broncos, who had an agreement with Russ, can go to Russ and basically threaten him, saying, we're still going to pay you, but you're going to lose your starting position if you don't take out the injury guarantee clause in your contract.
The way I look at it is the NFL, and this is the brilliance of the NFL and the owners, is that because it's the only sport that does not have guaranteed contracts, there's a lot of wiggle room. And you hear it all the time about these players who restructure their deals. Yeah. You don't see that in any other sport. Baseball players don't restructure their deals, right? NBA players oftentimes don't restructure their deals. They'll opt out and then re-sign or something.
Because the money's guaranteed.
What?
The money's guaranteed.
Right. And they don't restructure so that their cap hit is different for this year compared to next year. They don't do that. The NFL does that. And I think that is one of the things that the players need to negotiate out of these contracts, this non-guaranteed stuff, because it gives so much leverage to the teams to be able to move this money around and cut guys who still have years left in their contracts. And so I don't think I've heard of this specific situation before, but we've definitely heard of situations before where players were told that they have to adjust their contract or else they're getting cut or benched or moved or traded or whatever. And sometimes the player will call the bluff and say, you know what, do it. And then they get cut or traded or whatever. And then sometimes the guys agree to it because they want to stay. Russell Wilson has options, so he's decided to say no, and he's going to get moved.
Yeah, I think that there's more that happened with this one behind the scenes. Like, they won games, so maybe you're not going to bench the quarterback while you're winning games, right? They won the 2 games in a row, then they came out of the bye week, and they did go on that win streak. But I do wonder how much the NFLPA got involved and they were able to delay the actual benching of Russell Wilson. Because I hear what you're saying, and what you said makes sense, and I'll give you the reality of the situation. The owners are always going to win over the players. It's 32 owners that you have to get on the same page, and you don't even need all of them to get on the same page. It's the majority. The players, there's so many more players, obviously, than NFL owners. And not everyone makes $30, $40 million a year, and you only have such a short lifespan in the NFL. And this is a brutal, lethal sport. And there's a lot of times that's why the contracts aren't guaranteed. I just the personal truth of it, because you could sign someone for 5 years, then the next year or next day he could break his leg, go running for a first down, and then he's never the same player again. But I don't think you'll ever get players on the same page, because even when it gets contentious and they go on strike, eventually paychecks start to get missed, and then ultimately everyone is selfish and they're in it for themselves. And that's when you eventually just get players that go, okay, we're getting a good deal. We need our money now. Let's just do this. The owners will always have the upper hand on the players. But in this case in particular, and I'm not naive. I know the NFL is a ruthless business. And I know there's a lot of things that goes on that we don't know, that if they ever, like whenever the NFL gets in a legal matter, a lot of times, like, how can we rectify this situation as soon as possible? Because if we ever had to tell you the truth, man, we're going to find out how the sausage is made, and it ain't pretty. And that is, the NFL has been caught covering up for things for years. I go back to one of the public ones. Like, you're telling me that Roger Goodell, the first time he saw the Ray Rice video was when TMZ released it? That's a bunch of hogwash. The NFL was definitely offered something, and for whatever reason, they didn't pay it, and they could have had that go away, which thankfully they didn't, because at least we got to see what happened. And then without that video, I don't think the Ray Rice situation goes down the way that it does, just because of the way that we live right now. The power of video is so big. But that was another instance. I'm not directly comparing it to this, but just with what we were talking about, with how much the NFL gets away with, that most of the time the NFL, they cover up and they hide a lot of things. But in this case, this one's actually playing out public, and maybe there's a little bit more behind the scenes that we know. But I just don't think that's right, that an employer could go to you and say, we agreed to this deal. Like, it's one thing if they're gonna say, well, actually, they're still paying him, right? Like, that's their out. It's like they're still paying him, and then now he won't get hurt, and it's going to be making it easier to move on. So I guess the NFL technically won't lose anything here. And Russ, I guess from a legal standpoint, won't have much of a case to be made when you talk it out and really think it through. But that just seems wrong. It really just seems wrong that they could say, we agreed to a deal. Now, one of the parameters of your deal that is insured to you in case if you get hurt, we want taken out if you're going to continue to play as the starting quarterback. It seems it's business, and there's a lot of dirty business that goes on. That seems like dirty business to me.
At the end of the day, though, I mean...
You know what I just realized? I'm too good of a human being. You know? That's what I just realized right there.
It's funny. Manny and I were just talking about that exact thing. Man, Zach is just such a good human being.
Yeah.
And, Manny was just saying, like, man, Zach is just a great guy.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm thinking of this from, like, a nice, good way, like just what's right or wrong. And in business, it's not always about what's right or wrong. It all comes down to dollars and cents.
At the end of the day, they're not demanding, they're not forcing him to take this clause out of his contract. They're just basically saying...
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not. What I'm saying is, like, they're not forcing him to do it. They're basically saying, listen, you can either do this or we bench you, right? So, like, it's like, if you want to be our quarterback, then you have to take this out. Mm-hmm. If you won't take it out, then we're going to bench you because we don't want you to be our quarterback.
But they are it would be like, for example, if let's say I knew what your contract situation was, and let's say I came to you, or actually say this.
7 years, $49 million a year.
Yeah, your nose just grew a little bit bigger, Pinocchio.
It's not possible. That's not possible, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's just say Spike Eskin came to you, and you just agreed to a new deal, Samter. Like, this is not 3-4. You just agreed to a new deal. And Spike goes, if you want to keep on producing the show, you need to take out of your contract, like, a guaranteed clause that we now disagree with. And then basically, if you take that out, it makes it easier for us to move on from you in this offseason. Like, that's what's going on here. They went to Russ, and they said, we know you want to play. You want to keep on playing? Well, you got to take away your injury guarantee clause. And even if they didn't say, this is us saying we want to move on from you, we want this to end, and we're going to expedite that situation in March. But if you play and you get hurt and you can't pass that physical in March, then that money gets guaranteed for the 2025 year. So it is a threat. Now, however they massaged it, however they dressed it up, however they worded it, it's one thing. But they dangled that carrot of, do you want to play football? And Russ, say what you want about him, he wants to play football. And then they said, you want the carrot? All righty. You have to give away any protection you have from an injury standpoint that would guarantee your salary for 2025. Now, I get how the NFL is going to get away with it, but the union should be fighting this, and I guess they have been fighting this, and they should be making a big stink about this because it's different in restructuring a contract. This is taking something out of the contract, and I just think it's absurd, really.
It's basically renegotiating terms of the contract, but they basically gave Russell Wilson two options: play football or more money, right? If you want more money, you can stay as our starting quarterback. We'll just remove this clause.
Well, where's the more money part? He doesn't get any more money by this.
Well, not more money, but it's basically money or play football. You got to be on the bench and have this clause in your contract, or you could play football and we'll remove it.
It's play football, have no insurance.
Right.
That is what this is.
Not have no insurance, but have limited
no
insurance.
future insurance. That's what they asked him to do. Because,
well, all these players, especially the quarterbacks, they take out their own insurance policies and everything too. So it's a little bit different.
No,
but yes,
insurance
it's a contractual
on the deal. The insurance on the deal that you agreed to, where
Right.
if you get hurt, then your salary becomes guaranteed in 2025. That's what they essentially did here.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, I'm sure this goes on more than what we actually think and know. But if I'm a player, I would want no part of the Broncos right now. I think Sean Payton is a jerk right now. I thought he has poorly mistreated Russ all throughout the season. And then your quarterback, who I know he's not well liked, but the quarterback is the face of the team, is the face of the organization. And you bring in a coach, and I still don't know why Sean took this job. And he comes in, Russ improves. He's still not great. He's probably still not the future of the franchise. And while you're winning back-to-back games, Green Bay and Kansas City, you go up to him and you say, hey, you want to keep on playing? Well, then you take out any injury protection clauses in your contract. It does not sit well with me. And I would go somewhere else if I was a player because the Broncos they seem toxic right now. I know it's like pick the lesser of two evils. There's a lot of toxicity all around the NFL. But the Broncos seem like they're toxic, and I don't see how they're going to turn this thing around anytime soon.
But I think to your point, I think that there's toxicity everywhere around the NFL. I don't think it really matters whether it's the Broncos or the Jets or whatever team. All these teams do it to all the players, right?
Yeah.
This was specifically, probably went to Russ behind closed doors and said, listen, we don't want to embarrass you by benching you. So if you want to keep playing, here's what we need from you so that we can continue forward with the team that we need to build. At the end of the day, here's the thing.
But why did he take the job, though? Like, that's the thing. Like, when
that
you
doesn't
take
make
the
sense to me
job,
either.
they had a long-term financial commitment. Even if you could get out of it and the team has to pay a lot of money, you had to believe in him in some point.
Right.
And this just seems like too quick of a give up. It seems like he took this job and he had this preconceived notion about Russ before, and he was like, I'm going to get time. They're going to give me all the power. We're going to dump Russ, and then we'll find our quarterback eventually.
Have you ever been in a situation, though, whether it's a job or a date or something, where you went in with a preconceived notion, a positive one, and it turned out to be the complete opposite?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, man, I really expected this to go a lot differently than it did.
All the time.
Okay. So is it possible then that Sean Payton went into this being like, I think I'm going to love Russ Wilson. Like, I'm going to like this guy.
No.
He's going to be my kind of leader. He's going to be my kind of quarterback. He can run my kind of offense. And then he got there and he's like, man, this dude is cheesy. This guy is corny. This guy is a loser. This guy doesn't control a locker room. His teammates hate him. He can't run the offense. He stands up to me too often. He's entitled. He's not as good of a player as I thought he was going to be. This is just not going to work, and I'm going to cut bait as quick as possible.
Here's why no. It's understanding who the person is. Like, if you told me that this was Manny, from all regards, Manny's a nice guy, good dude, hardworking guy, team player, no ego. If this was Manny, it was like positive, and then Manny says, not a real fan of it, all righty. I would value that. Sean knows, like, to get to this point where you are convicted in what you do, you have a ton of ego, and you are driven one way. I don't think Sean, especially with the way that he talked about Russ early on, went into this, this is going to be like all lovey-dovey and amazing, and I love Russ, and I think we're going to turn Russ around, and Russ is going to be great. I think Sean took this job knowing, in all likelihood, Russ probably won't see the duration of this contract, and there's going to be a divorce. We'll see what we have in year number one. But if it doesn't really turn the page drastically, and it was so bad and so ugly last year, then we'll find a way to get out of this deal. Because look at it. He gave up on him. The moment you go to the player and you say, take this clause out of your contract or we're benching you, you are setting up, that is the appetizer for we are getting rid of you. Even if you listen, we are going to get rid of you. Because even if Russ takes that injury guarantee clause out of his contract, they're moving on from him anyway after this year. So they set the stage that quickly to get rid of him. And then Russ won a few more games, and they're like, we got to wait until we go below 500. Okay, we did that. All right, let's pull Russell Wilson. So I don't buy that. I'm not giving Sean Payton the benefit of the doubt that he went into this like, it's all great. And then it was like, oh, man, I was just wrong on that. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I'll just say one more thing that Russ did pass along here in that press conference or just media gathering. I came here to play here to win. I knew it was going to be a process. I signed a 7-year deal. Wilson said, I want to be here. I want to play here. I want to win championships here. Well, who's going to tell Russ? That ain't happening because them benching you is them moving on from you. So it's the nice thing to say, but there's no way Russ actually still wants to be in Denver after what did transpire this week. Ryan Horvat next. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
This portion of the show is brought to you by NHTSA. Whether you get pulled over or get into a crash, drinking and driving will change your whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over, paid for by NHTSA. College picks, NFL picks. We'll do so right now with the host of BetMGM Tonight via BetQL. He joins us each and every football Friday, and that, of course, is Ryan Horvat. Ryan, appreciate the time as always. A happy 2024. What's happening, my man?
Happy New Year, Zach. I hope you enjoyed the holidays. Hopefully you're going to continue to enjoy the holidays because these bowl games, you know, especially with some steam, you never know what's going on with some line movement, right? Like Notre Dame, for example. I'm sporting the ND shirt today because I have a really bad number. I bet them as 11.5-point favorites. Turns out Sam Hartman doesn't play in this game. Audric Estime doesn't play in this game. And it doesn't really matter what number you got because they just won by 30 points. So that didn't really matter. But I'm excited for the college football playoff, man. I'm really excited to watch some games that actually matter, these New Year's games. And it's the best time of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably for what you do. You're not going to like my comment. I equate the bowl season outside of the college football playoffs to the NBA regular season. Like, I have no clue who's showing up. I have no clue who gives a rat's ass. And as someone that bets, it's almost a turnoff because you have no clue what's going to happen. Like, I made a bet last night of the NBA regular season. I don't remember the last time I bet in the NBA regular season. It was Pistons money line just because everyone in the world was getting on it. And it was like 800, plus 800, 850, whatever it was. But it's so tough to bet these games because there's all these opt-outs, the transfer portal, and guys are going to the NFL as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like tonight, for example, you know, Missouri and Ohio State, we still have no idea. Now, I don't expect Marvin Harrison to play in this game. He hasn't practiced. I probably wouldn't risk the injury, but, you know, there's still not any confirmation, which is funny, which is why the number keeps bouncing from 5.5 back to 4.5. If he gets ruled out, which I expect, it's probably going to be 6. So if you like Missouri, you wait for the 6, and it's all just a big guessing game, and sometimes it doesn't really matter. That's why, again, with the playoff, at least we know the motivation for those 4 teams. Everybody's going to be out there, everybody that's healthy at least.
All righty, Ryan Horvat, let's start off with the college football playoff, 5 p.m. Eastern, New Year's Day. So after all the partying, after all the food you're eating, you're going to sit down on the couch, you're going to do what we do best as men, and we're going to watch these games, and we're going to stuff our face with foods, and we're going to make a lot of bets, and hopefully we're going to win them. Alabama, Michigan. Michigan being a 2-point favorite, I think this is begging everybody to plus the 2 points with Alabama. Oh, you give Nick Saban a month. Of course he's going to win the game, blah, 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 blah. Of course Alabama could win this game, but I'm not picking them. I like Michigan. I think Michigan wins the game 23-20. Give me Michigan in a very uncomfortable line of 2 points, laying the 2. How about you?
I love it. And this is a perfect opportunity for anybody that followed the advice before the LSU game where you had the Jaden Daniels Heisman future still at 8-1 and you had Alabama 14-1. And I really like Michigan in this spot. If Alabama happens to win, that's fine with me. More money coming my way if they get through the winner of the Texas and Washington game, of course. But, here's the only thing that concerns me. I also like Michigan. I'm going to say a lower scoring game. I think it correlates with an under, so I'll say like 17-13. Mm-hmm. Michigan runs the ball on 55% of their plays this season, which is the 5th highest rate among Power 5 schools. And J.J. McCarthy, he only attempted 8 passes in that November game against Penn State. And if you look, he had a 69.7 passing grade. In these last couple matchups, he hasn't really done a whole lot. Also, I wonder how healthy he is, but now he's had some time off. I think he's going to have to make some big-time throws in this game, but I think he's going to. I know he didn't last year against TCU. Also, Michigan, they've been really good against these quarterbacks that can move a little bit, except for Max Duggan last year, college football playoff. That was the last quarterback to go over 60 rushing yards. I just don't see it happening again. I think they're going to be able to contain Milroe in this game. I like Michigan on the money line. I also like the under, but I'm fine with the 2 points as well.
All righty, Texas and Washington, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. I think this is a high-scoring affair. There's going to be a ton of offense between Quinn Ewers and Michael Penix Jr. I think Washington continues to get disrespected. I know Texas, right? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry this week is going to tell you, Ryan Horvat, it's the difference is the trenches. Texas is so much better in the trenches. I heard for a week, got to take Oregon. Oregon, a 9.5 point favorite up against Washington. And I just think that this is another spot where Washington gets disrespected, and I don't know why they're getting disrespected. Like, I love Sark. I like Quinn Ewers. I love Kalen DeBoer. I like Michael Penix. So I want to see a great game here. I want to see a high-scoring affair. I would probably what I'll do here is I'm going to plus the 4.5 points, and I do think that Washington is going to win the game outright, and they continue to play that disrespect card.
Completely agree. I'm going to go with Washington here. I think it's going to actually be a little bit lower scoring than a lot of people expect. I could see this being 28-24, maybe 35-32. I just, exactly what you said. And I bet Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game because I thought that was the best offensive line in the country. Turns out Washington's offensive line is pretty damn good. Top 5 in the country. And that's the one way that you could affect what Michael Penix does. Is Texas is going to have to get some pressure in this game. Penix only completes 47% of his passes when he's outside the pocket, which is 84th among FBS quarterbacks. Also only completes, I believe, 59% of his passes against the blitz, which is outside the top 50. But the good thing is that offensive line that I just talked about, top 5. And Texas also just doesn't blitz a whole lot, just 35% of dropbacks, which is 73rd in the country. So I think we're going to see Michael Penix with a clean pocket going against that Texas secondary, which is still a little bit shaky. So I think that Washington's live in this game. And again, I don't think they're going to get bullied in the trenches. They didn't against Oregon. And again, I like Sark, man. I really like Kalen DeBoer. So I'm not going to say Kalen DeBoer and Washington has the coaching advantage, but I trust them a little bit more in this spot here. So give me the points with Washington. I think this might be a classic game, kind of like USC Texas years ago when it was Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush against Vince Young and all those guys. I think it's going to be back and forth. So I'll take anything over a field goal here with Washington, who I think has just been disrespected all season long because of the conference that they played in.
You can always watch our show, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Ryan Horvat is here with us. And Horvat, the YouTube chat is popping off And usually when that happens, they want to say down with Horvat. What another dumb pick by Ryan Horvat. They're actually giving you some praise, and they're actually saying you look like someone. Have you ever got that you look like Jake Elliott, the former Memphis kicker who's the kicker for the Eagles right now? That's who Craig in the YouTube chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, is saying you look just like Jake Elliott.
I've never got that one, but I could see it, especially
not
with
a bad comp.
So it's not, and I'll take it because
his wife is very good looking too, Jake Elliott.
Yeah, he makes a little bit more money. Maybe we could get on his. Maybe we could get in his range if we have a really good college football playoff and we hit all three of our NFL picks. I believe we went 2-1 last week, so we put the parlay home. But I'm glad to hear, man, because I went back home and now I'm used to the East Coast, living in D.C., living in Maryland. Kind of splitting time. I found my barber. I went back home. My barber in Chicago, out of business. He's retired after 6+ years. So I went to, and I hate to admit this, well, I'm not going to actually, every sponsor could be a future sponsor, so I'm not going to name where I went. But, man, yeah, it was rough. The back
Yeah, you look really a little rough this week. You look like you could, you look like you want to wear a hat, but you don't want to wear a hat.
That and the fact that I've got so much sodium and garlic and butter and Italian. I went back home, so there was a lot of deep dish pizza and Portillo's Italian beef. Now that's one name I will drop because man, it didn't get much better than Portillo's.
What did they? The guy that was cutting your hair, he was blindfolded. It looked like he took a chunk out of your head right here.
Yeah, I was calling him Devin Leary outside of today because he missed the target. It wasn't good, man.
Ryan,
it was like Tommy DeVito the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the cutlets were burnt 100%. Ryan Horvat here with us. Cue me my NFL music. Let's get to some NFL picks. Horvat has been really hot as of late, so since you have the hot hand, we'll let you go first. What is the first play for Ryan Horvat?
All right, I appreciate it. Let's actually, you know what? Let's go to the Giants here at 5.5. So we get Tyrod Taylor here. Tommy DeVito was a really fun story for a couple weeks, but I just think this is an obvious upgrade with Taylor being healthy. And I really like this Rams team. I don't want to be cliche guy, but nobody wants to see this Rams team in the playoffs because right now they're trending towards being a top 5 offense. Kyron Williams might be the top fantasy back next season, especially if Arthur Smith continues to not use Bijan Robinson. But this Rams offense, second in DVOA the last 6 games. They're 5-1 during that stretch. They've scored at least 28 points in 5 straight games. I feel like now is the time to fade them because you have the Giants who are going to look to play spoiler, and you have Brian Daboll coming off a loss. He's 10-5 after a loss. I'm not the biggest trends guy, but also we get the Rams. They're not going to be in the dome here. I'm hoping for some windy conditions. So give me the points, actually, with the Giants. Also, the Giants at home, their defensive split's much better. Not that they're a top 5 defense, but I think they could keep this a little bit closer. So I'll take New York plus 5.5 here.
All righty, so Horvat goes Giants plus 5.5. I'm going to take a dog to start off as well. And that dog is going up against an NFC East team, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles have a lot of team chemistry problems right now. I do believe Philadelphia is going to win this game, but even though Jonathan Gannon was wrong in how he departed Philadelphia, I do think the players in Arizona like Jonathan Gannon, and this is a big game for him, so I think they're going to be there at the start, give a good first half effort, and maybe it gets away in the second half in the fourth quarter. Kyler Murray in this game is massive, and I just think Philadelphia is missing that team chemistry that they had from a year ago. Philly wins the game, but the spread is too big. I'm not taking the Eagles by 12 points up against any team right now in the NFL, so give me the Cards plus 12 right out of the gate.
I agree. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a couple weeks here. I'm going to take a favorite, and I'm going to take a big favorite. I'll take the Bills. I got them at 13. I still like them at 14. Anything over 14.5 is probably a different story, but 2 touchdowns I think is fair. It's a revenge game. They lost to the Pats earlier this season, and they've dominated, though. If you look at, they've won 4 straight games in their division by 12 points. They probably need to win out to get themselves in a situation where they're a playoff team. I mean, that game against Miami could be big. We might get winter conditions. I was going to say windy conditions. We might get winter conditions looking at the radar right now in Buffalo. I just want freezing conditions in this game. I think right now, man, I love what the Bills have been able to do since they've moved on from Ken Dorsey. They're averaging over 30 points per game. Cook's been cooking on with the run game, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Pats here. I know it's been a fun story with the Pats and Bailey Zappi the last couple weeks.
No, it hasn't. It's horrible. They're winning games, and they're screwing up the tank. I'm annoyed.
Exactly. Well, I think I got some good news for you this week. I think Buffalo beats up on them. I think they win this game by 17-plus points. So I like the Bills.
All right, you go back into the favorite well, so will I. It looks like Will Levis is in line to start this week for Tennessee. C.J. Stroud, though, is back. And getting C.J. Stroud back is spectacular news for the Houston Texans. I will take the Texans at home to win the game, and I like Houston to cover the 4-point spread. So give me the Texans laying 4. Your final pick, Ryan Horvat?
All right, I'm going to go with I like the total a little bit more. I like the over in Lions-Cowboys, but I'm actually going to take the points here with the Lions. If you look at the DVOA numbers, these teams 6-7, so they're both top 10. But the Lions barely get past Minnesota last week. Nick Mullins threw for over 400 yards against that secondary. I know the Cowboys have some fleas, especially on the road this season. They've been much better at home. But I'm looking at the injury report here. I think that the Lions are going to have some success in the middle of the field. Right now, the only thing I'm worried about with Dallas is the middle of the field. And you look at what the tight ends are doing right now for Detroit. I mean, I think that this is going to be a really big game here for Jared Goff if they're able to keep him clean. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Dallas right now is number 1 in pass rush win rate. But I think if Goff's able to get rid of the ball quick, use your tight ends, use St. Brown. That's the other area where Dallas is really struggling right now is covering the slot position. If you stick St. Brown in the slot, you have Laporta, obviously, at your tight end position. I think he's going to go over his 46.5 receiving yards. I think St. Brown has at least 7 receptions, and I think Detroit keeps this game close. We get a lot of points. So I like the Lions, and I like the over here.
All righty, the last game that I'm going to pick. You know what? Give me a dog here. And it's basically a pick 'em. I was going to avoid this game. I was thinking about taking the Saints plus 2.5 against Tampa, but I don't want to have to root for Derek Carr. I can't stand him. I was thinking about going Atlanta plus 2.5, but Arthur Smith really does annoy me because he's messed up their season. I will go with Green Bay plus a point. They're going up against Jaron Hall and the Minnesota Vikings. This game is at Minnesota. Vegas clearly doesn't have a feel on it. So I'll just take the dog in this one, even though it's basically a pick 'em. But give me the pack with Jordan Love plus a point.
Ooh. I think you should have won Atlanta. I think you should redo the pick. I'm
not going to do that.
I think you should go Atlanta. I really do like Atlanta. I worry a little bit about the Jordan Love Green Bay pick here, only because Jair Alexander, that suspension.
Yeah, it's a good point.
We may see Preston Smith trying to cover Justin Jefferson down the field. Yeah. Now, like you said, though, the Vikings are on their, 4th quarterback this season, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to be uncomfortable to win money. And this is an uncomfortable pick. And I feel uncomfortable going with the Packers. So you know what? They have me I have them right where I want them. So Giants plus 5.5 for Horvat. Bills minus 14. Did you make your final pick? Oh, the Lions plus 5.5.
Yeah, we're going to go with the Lions plus 5.5, but we do like the over a little bit more there. So.
Gotcha. And I go with the Cardinals plus 12, the Texans minus 4, and then the Fighting Jordan Loves plus 1, which Horvat clearly doesn't love that pick. Ryan Horvat, Happy New Year. Appreciate you doing this as always.
Thanks so much, Zach. Enjoy the new year.
All righty, that is Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight via BetQL. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come back with our Ask the Pros question, but first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is Dexter Henry.
CBS Sports Radio.
Sports Flash.
All righty, Zach, a busy Friday night of NBA action coming up. 10-game slate tonight with some things for the Hoops fans to keep their eyes on. The Celtics, they will go for their 5th straight victory when they host the Raptors. The defending champion Nuggets, they have the league's longest current winning streak. That is at 6 games. That will be on the line tonight when they host the Thunder. And Bradley Beal is back. The Suns guard will return to the court tonight against the Hornets. Beal has been out just over 2 weeks after suffering a right ankle sprain against the Knicks. 2 college football bowl games in the books today at the Sun Bowl. It was a Notre Dame offensive explosion. Fighting Irish quarterback Steve Angeli completed 15 of 19 passes and threw for 3 scores to 3 different receivers as Notre Dame demolished Oregon State 40-8. At the Gator Bowl, Phil Maffa rushed for 4 touchdowns, including a 3-yarder with 17 ticks to go as Clemson knocked off Kentucky 38-35. Memphis and Iowa State, they're playing right now in the Liberty Bowl, and that one is in the 3rd quarter. Memphis leads 29-13. Coming up later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern kickoff, Missouri and Ohio State, they're going to do battle in the Cotton Bowl. I'm Dexter Henry.
We are CBS Sports Radio, and our Twitter handle is @CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tully and Eugene says, Zach, who do you like for the college football playoff? You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty, game number 1. I'm going Michigan 23. Alabama 20. Michigan advances to the national championship game. The mobility of J.J. McCarthy is going to be massive here. They need to let J.J. McCarthy cook. They need to trust his legs. And then I do believe Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards will both make one big explosive play, and that will lead to the Michigan victory. So give me Michigan 23-20 up against Alabama. Samter, who are you rocking and rolling with in this affair?
My mind, my football knowledge, my football whatever, has Alabama. I can't.
That's good.
I can't pick against Alabama. However,
oh no,
I'm going to let my heart make this decision because I want Michigan to win this game. So I'm going Michigan 27-24, even though deep down inside I know Alabama's going to win this game.
I'm crushed.
I just mushed you. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, that is... Wait, now, hold on. Manny, who wins the game?
I think the Crimson Tide win the game. I've got them 30-20.
All righty. See, now I'm conflicted here. Because usually my rule of thumb is if I agree with the producer and I'm agreeing with Samter, everyone should fade if we're both in agreement. But now we've added a third person here, in Manny... Who is he just doing like the Scott Van Pelt trick where it's like, okay, let's pick the other one. So it's not all three of us being all in on Michigan. And then we end up just getting wrong there. So I don't know. I don't know if there's good intentions by Manny Rodriguez.
I mean, you also just called Manny a person. And I don't know if that really qualifies either. So
why?
I mean, I don't know if Manny is human.
What do you mean? Manny's a great guy. What do you?
He's half man, half something.
I don't know. I think now you're bullying Manny here. How about that?
Have you seen that mustache?
Brother, this has been going on for months.
We may get an email from management about people bullying people. I thought you were just bullying Manny right there. All right, game number 2, Washington and Texas. I'm going Washington 34, Texas 30. I like Washington in a high-scoring affair. I think the Huskies continue to get disrespected. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because people don't like the Pac-12, even though the Pac-12 is going away. But I trust Michael Penix Jr. and Rome Odunze to have a great connection in this one. And I know everyone's talking about the Texas defensive line and the Texas offensive line as well. I'm not betting against Kalen DeBoer. In 2 years at Washington, he's only lost 2 games, and both of those were by less than 8 points. I like Washington 34, Texas 30. Samter, Washington, Texas.
This is another going with my heart. I think that Texas just has too much. For some reason, there's just something that I don't buy into Washington. I want to, I just can't. So I'm going Washington 30. I'm going Texas 34, Washington 27.
Okie dokie. Manny?
I still can't trust those Texas Longhorns. I don't think they've got it yet.
Why? Like both of
the
you.
Narrative.
Both of you guys just said something.
Go ahead.
That I think we do this in the media. And it's ridiculous.
And the damn media.
We
right?
have now seen an entire season. It's like, oh, I can't trust Washington. I can't trust Texas. Texas, they walked into Alabama this year, and they beat the Crimson Tide by 10 points. Washington, for an entire month, was told Oregon's better than them, and Washington beat Oregon. You have to, the Samter have to put some respect on Washington's name, and Manny, you have to put some respect on Texas's name.
I'm good. I've got Washington 45-38 over Texas.
And also, if you're going to make the prediction with Washington, why don't you just say Washington wins like 42-7 if you're saying that Texas isn't
Wait until I give you a final score for the national championship game.
Oh, okay. Which your national championship game would then be Alabama and Washington?
How fun is that?
That would be good. Genuinely, this year, and I think people have preconceived notions about the college football playoff, but this year is truly the year where we don't know who's going to win the national championship. Like, I can make a legitimate case for all four of these teams to win the national championship. And that's not always been the case. And I know people like last year, see, what also bugs me is people, they don't remember what happened. And I heard a lot in the college football playoff conversation. A lot of people were trashing TCU getting in a year ago. It's like, oh, Florida State's not getting in because everyone's afraid that another TCU is going to happen. When I heard that argument, I just cringed. And I like screamed. I'm like, are people just stupid? TCU beat Michigan. So you can't tell me TCU didn't deserve to be in the college football playoff just because they got just destroyed and they got obliterated by Georgia in the national championship game. They lose in the semifinal. You could make the case, oh, well, maybe they didn't belong and maybe they didn't deserve to go. But the fact that they beat Michigan and then they got into the championship game and then got destroyed doesn't mean that they weren't worthy to get into the college football playoff. So we really talk over ourselves and talk in circles when it comes to the college football playoff and when it comes to all these things. And I just hate that argument. Texas, here they are, or Washington, undefeated, and then Texas, here they are, one loss this year, and that was in Red River to Oklahoma, and they still found a way to get to the college football playoff. But I don't know if I could trust them. If you can't trust them now, you're never going to trust them. Washington's undefeated. Texas beat Alabama this year by 10 points. And you know what's funny about that, Manny? I thought you were going to pick Texas for a second.
Why is that?
Because you were like, oh, I can't trust them. And then you're picking Alabama to win it all, right?
Yeah, I am picking Alabama.
Who beat Alabama this year?
According to your knowledge, I do believe that was Texas.
Yes, they beat them by 10 back in week 2. It's funny to me.
Any given Saturday, am I right?
Yeah, well, the national championship game's on a Monday.
Well,
and I'll be there.
Monday.
I will be there. Yeah. Say it again?
You're going to be there?
Yes, I will be there in Houston.
In the stands or up in press row?
I will be in the press box. Yeah. I'll have a nice little cozy seat, even though it's in a dome.
I wish I had your life.
Last time I went to Houston, it was for 28-3, where I was in the stands as a fan, and I saw the Patriots come on back. You may have heard about that. It was 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and the Patriots.
No, I haven't heard that,
and
actually.
Tom Brady, right, had a great game. Some guy named James White as well. So really phenomenal. All righty, it is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I hope we have someone ready coming up in 5 minutes, because who's in tonight?
Should be Mark Ryan, yes.
Okay, I feel good. I don't know. I see there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now, and this is my biggest fear on a Friday, where the host is not able to connect, and then they're going to say, Zach, we need you to stick around and do the show afterwards. Well, guess what? I am bolting out of here. Manny Rodriguez may be hosting for the next 4 hours on CBS Sports Radio. All righty, fun show today. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening to the program, interacting with us. Also, Happy New Year to all. We will be off on Monday, but we will be back on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So have a great start to the 2024. Big thanks to Evan Washburn, Roman Harper, and also Ryan Horvat for joining us. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.